Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial champion, Sean McAfee.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Totally Awesome Podcast, the podcast so bad it'll make you tap out. My name is JoshAgeddon, and today I'm talking about Summerslam 2022. Apparently, I'm doing the show alone. Sean said, and I quote, "I'm busy ripping that fat bong," and Skylar is Skylar, so I guess I'll just.
What does that imply, you selfish slut?
And welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast, where we are going to be reviewing, as a three-man booth, SummerSlam 2022. I am your Colonial champion, Sean McAfee, here alongside the two staples, the two stalwarts, the two nails that are hammered in, and boy do they like to hammer down and stop hammer time. We're getting sued. The man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, Skylar Greenberg. Stop hammer time, buddy.
Can't touch this. Da 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 da. Da da. Can't touch this. Da,
now we're
da,
really getting sued. You thought we weren't before, but that's it. Actually, to your credit, Sky, that is an old gimmick. That was your original gimmick, was the songs. So
right, and that's the one gimmick that AEW hasn't taken from me yet. So
that's right. But give them time. But if it's not AEW stealing your gimmicks, it might be the company run by this man, the proprietor of TAW Gaming, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, and downright slappable, JoshAgeddon. How you doing, my buddy? Oh, right, you're doing a podcast too.
The CIW Colonial invasion continues.
And for those of you Court-Martail Podcast listeners who are like, hey, what's this he's talking about? Links in the description. You will not be disappointed.
If you don't know what if you don't know what we're talking about, you're an uncultured swine, and you should fix that.
Those are his words. But speaking of not being disappointed, SummerSlam 22. To be honest,
Sean, I have a question for you.
I have an answer for you.
I thought we swore off WWE pay-per-views.
Well,
I was about to say, I remember a time not too long ago where you guys were like, I don't want to watch it anymore, I quit.
Well, but then the unthinkable happened.
The unthinkable happened.
And then we wound up instead with the very first Triple H pay-per-view of WWE. The first one of the Triple H era.
Events happened.
Yeah, and so as a result, we weren't going to watch this, but somebody was posting some spoilers during the night of the event while we were recording last week's show, as it turns out. And so we decided on a whim that, yes, we are going to watch this just to see if we notice anything palpably different. And Sky, let's start with you. But for my part, I saw some very noticeable changes from the outset.
Agreed. There were a lot of things that you can definitely tell were Triple H isms, which, hey, you got the meme ready? Thank you, based H.
Yeah. That's a lot better than a fuck you Vince counter, man. The thank you based H counter sounds way more fun.
I mean, that's the thing, is that when was the last time you watched a WWE show and felt like it wasn't a waste of your time, for the most part?
I had fun throughout the whole show, which is quite rare. JoshAgeddon?
Well, to say that this was the best WWE pay-per-view of the year thus far is like saying one child that doesn't have some kind of infectious disease is more likely to live the next couple days than the other children who are on death's door with some kind of disease.
Your non-specifics puzzle me, but I get your point. but yeah, no,
it's a really good show.
It definitely. I mean, faint praise calling this one the best pay-per-view of the year, because what's the competition?
The bar just went through planet Earth. The bar is Sheamus and Cesaro. We need to start digging to find them. They're somewhere in the center of the planet of the Earth.
Yeah, and it almost doesn't even feel like it was like the same company that ran this show. Almost.
Well, on that, there were a few things that were painful reminders that yes, this is the same company, but we'll get to that.
Yes, there's little subtle hints that like yes, while we are going to improve things around here, it is still some level of sports entertainment, and that is not going to change.
But
I don't think it's ever going to change.
I hate this word, but the vibe of the show was different.
I mean, here's the thing, is that it's WWE. Sports entertainment is part of its DNA, and we have to acknowledge on some level that it's never going to change. But what's important to keep in mind is that we want to be entertained. That's the biggest thing, is that, well, sorry, SWCG, that's stable.
Oh, right.
We were entertained.
Right. Well, we were. But you notice none of the people who are in We Weren't Entertained are on the show, so... But, in any case, we start out with arguably one of the best matches of the night. But before we got there...
Wait, hold on, we're not doing the pre-show?
There was a pre-show?
What's a pre-show?
I'm kidding. There was no matches on the pre-show.
Okay, cool.
I honestly saw like 10 seconds of it, and it was just them fake talking as if this is a real sporting event. You know that stupid round table thing they do? The more things change, the more things stay the same.
I can't take the round table seriously, and also give it time. I mean, it's not like Triple H was just going to be like, all right, complete overhaul of everything around it. Like, he had to definitely pick and choose what battles he was going to fight to start out his tenure here.
There are some sore thumbs, some especially sore thumbs, that you can afford to trim, and the backstage panel or whatever the fuck is one of those sore thumbs that desperately needs amputation.
Yeah, or at least get some better talking heads on it.
If you got some decent talking heads, like if you put Paul Heyman and a couple of other really interesting people on there, then it'd be something to be compelling to listen to.
No, we just get
I don't even know. I think the concept of it is stupid enough that I don't think anyone could save it.
Well, I think the difference, Josh, again, is that because you're not a sports fan, you don't appreciate the talking heads being terrible.
Well, in real sports, I can buy it because it's real sports, and they don't know what's going to happen unless the fix is in and they're in on it. But with this, it's scripted. We like.
Shh! Not supposed to say that.
God damn it! You know that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are going to win the Super Bowl this year, right?
Kayfabe, dude.
That's football, right?
Trying to win another Super Bowl here.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. But
the Jerk Mehoff roundtable is just useless.
No, it's like, and it's funny because like your argument against it is also like the reasoning for it, right? It's like, okay, other real sports do it, so why not have a panel? I would much rather akin wrestling rules to sports as opposed to like sports has panel. We has panel. We is sports.
Yeah.
Right?
That annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, because it's not even like they're people of interest or people like, I'm sorry, I love Jerry Lawler's wrestling. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. However, he brings nothing to the table at this point, literally, when it comes to any of these. And same with Booker T. Listen, his podcast is good. I like what he says there. But like, just enough. How can I miss you if you won't go away? And I would love to just not see either of them for like 6 months.
Ever again. But unless Booker T is just standing there cross-armed in a GI Bro outfit where a Spanish bunny is rapping
that was the funniest thing. That, you know, say what you want about that, but the fact that became his actual music video for that is just gold. I think that was one of the best things that came out of 2021, I think that was.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, there were a lot of good things that come out of 2021. It's just kind of disappointing that was the highlight.
It was, yeah. Well, but then...
Anyways, let's get past that, and let's get to the highlight that began this show.
Well, before we do, I have one small comment. We're going to start this show with a complaint. Mm-hmm. And because we're giving it high praise already. We've buried the lead and all said we pleasantly were surprised by the show. But one of the things that bothered me is they do the pyro, they go into the panel of the crowd, they pan the crowd, and they're like, oh, And welcome everybody to SummerSlam, and it's Jimmy Smith and the two other nudnicks. But what they do is they pan over, but instead of letting the commentators say, "Hello everyone, I'm Jimmy Smith," along with Corey Graves and Byron Saxton in a smooth way from the intro, they waited until they cut the camera to get to them, as opposed to the camera cutting to them when they start introducing themselves. So it felt very unnatural and like, wait till the camera gets on you, then speak. And it was like, oh, that's a little jarring. It was a little like, take me out of the authenticity of the moment. So we're starting off with a little hashtag bad formatting.
We're waiting.
I also have a
fired.
complaint. I also have a complaint with the beginning of the show. The opening video package had country music in it, and country music is ear aids.
Nashville,
in my opinion.
bro. Nashville. You got to take that off the top.
Don't care. It is garbage, and I hated it. It immediately started me off on a sour note. Country music.
It wasn't long enough to be terrible. It's Nashville.
I'm
it's
not
Tennessee.
hating it. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I will hate all over it. I will hate all over it until they combust.
I mean, it would be like if you had a show in South Carolina and you played bluegrass, right?
Big.
Not sure what bluegrass is, but whatever.
Okay, before this devolves into a cultural twister that just takes us down a whole nother path. Look at me, Tangent Central, being like, all right, kids, let's rally it together here. And besides, we haven't gotten to the best line that comes out of the whole night.
I thought grass was green.
Well, Corey's in Nash Vegas. Get the fuck out of here, Corey. You were so much better later on the night, but that one line, I'm like, I never want to hear you say that ever again. Ever. It was pain. But what wasn't painful? What wasn't painful was this opening match. It's Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. Skylar, let's start with you because you are the one who champions Bianca Belair more than any of the three of us, and this was a great demonstration why.
Yep, this was, again, kind of a culmination of their feud, and personally, I think this was the best wrestling match on the show. I want to be very clear when I say wrestling match.
Agreed. I understand what you're saying. I definitely agree.
I would also agree with that.
It was so well paced.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite part. It had ebbs and flows, but not everything necessarily looked the cleanest. They were like, there was a struggle involved in this matchup. You know, I thought that, you mentioned the vibe being different. Becky's intensity was different than we've ever seen it come out of her. Like, I felt like she better exuded it here. It
helped that she didn't look like 2009 Marilyn Manson.
No,
Thank God they took away the Cheeto eye makeup thing.
Yeah, but
they just need to scrape the dead Decepticon off her forehead.
But I will have to say that, kind of to that point, Becky looks like if Curry Man was a techno DJ that joined Black Veil Brides.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate
That's
that.
So accurate.
It's like,
especially Becky's knee things. Like, they kept getting in the way and they were distracted.
They were awkward. I don't know what was about that, because I did notice that as well and mention it, because I understand why they were there, but it felt like she was trying to kind of maneuver around them for a lot of the match.
JoshAgeddon is happy. His two favorite bands got mentioned on this episode.
Yeah, Curry Man and Black Veil Bride. And the graph, but I will say this, another WWE hashtag bad formatting. The graphics still suck.
Agreed.
They did not get
we
better.
Have to wait for Kevin Dunn to be gone first before we,
You don't like the giant Becky Lynch thing that looks like a redheaded kraken?
I mean,
did you like Bianca Belair's lips and then hair falling behind it?
Lip whip.
With the whip sound effect?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on, Sean. You didn't ask the most important question.
Well,
did this match start with a collar and elbow tie-up?
It sure did. It sure did. But before we got to that, whichever the unnamed interchangeable in-ring announcer said to announce Becky Lynch went, big time, Bex.
I noticed that too.
And I was like, oh.
And all the dogs in nearby the arena started working in unison.
And Nashville's canine population went into a frenzy. And but throughout all of that, the camera keeps going back to Becky, and Becky looks more angry and more focused and more driven and more desperate. Every time they panned over, brought it back to her, I loved her facial expression because it told the story in a very subtle way.
I mean, Becky's facials have always been the best part of her wrestling in-work psychology thing, because the story of the match will be told by whatever Becky is doing. When she was causing pain to Bianca and Bianca was selling, Becky was smiling, just happy to go, just damaging Bianca Belair.
Yeah, and, you know, another thing I really liked, what I thought was clever, is when Bianca did the leapfrog and Becky caught the leg and flapped her down.
Yes, that was slick.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and I'd never seen that before. That was innovative. You know, they were trying real hard here.
Speaking of that, Sean, one thing about WWE that has gotten on a lot of people's nerves, ours included, is the overabundance of rematches, because a lot of times they just bleed together and all look the same. I feel like the most guilty of that was the John Cena-Randy Orton never-ending feud in 2009, where they had their last match ever, and then they had another match on Raw, and it was the exact same as everything else they'd already done.
Their last match was in 2017.
Then they did it more in 2013, and then 2014, then 2017, and we'll continue to do it until the not-too-distant future.
We'll get one more,
in this match,
I'm sure.
Even though it was Becky and Bianca have wrestled several times before, I felt one of my favorite things in this match is they made an effort to do different stuff to make it feel like a different match, not the same thing that we've seen before.
Yeah,
I loved the attempted KOD on the outside where Becky countered it, and then did her usual apron leg drop in the ring, except in the timekeeper's area. I loved that.
And it looked better on the barricade than it did. She tried to do the
apron leg drop, and Bianca caught her with a power bomb. I loved that.
Yeah, that was a good one too. I like that spot as well. And there was a lot here, and of course they worked the arm, and Bianca did a good job of always, like, even when she was doing power stuff, she was always kind of looking at the arm, or like making sure people noticed that the arm was still kind of weak, and she paid attention to that, and I really appreciate that. Another thing, now I'm going to have to, I've already bashed Kevin Dunn and the production team, but I'm going to give him a compliment. With the exception of one noticeable time in the whole show, all of the picture-in-picture replays were fast, quick, and didn't miss any of the action. The important action.
Since we are experiencing a changing of the guard, do you think one of the reasons why those pictures-in-pictures lingered is because Vince McMahon was telling Kevin Dunn, focus on it for an ungodly amount of time?
100%, because that's why Triple H has the headset. Because he's talking to Kevin Dunn saying, cut 1, camera 1, cut 2, ready camera 3, cut 3, ready camera 4, cut 4. He's saying all of those cuts, so then when they're actually pressing the buttons in the production truck, they're getting that feed. So he's definitely saying, all right, do the replay, all right, back to the action. He's the one directing all of that.
Yeah.
By the way, did you notice the spot where Becky Lynch got injured?
I definitely noticed it. I just can't. It's been a week since we watched the show, so I can't exactly remember what exact moment was.
Yeah, I knew she got injured. I can't remember which spot.
So it was about 5 or 6 minutes into the match. They go to the corner, and Bianca charges Becky into the corner. Becky grabs Bianca's hair, then pulls her down. As Bianca is being covered for a 1-2-3 by Becky, Bianca kicks out, but because of where Becky's shoulder is, it's in a weird position. So when Bianca kicks out, she actually kicks Becky's shoulder and separates it. And you can see Becky, she's holding her elbow, and she knows it.
Props to Becky, though, for putting on a hell of a match with that, though.
Well, she had to have popped it back in, did she not?
Yeah, probably.
She tried to pop it back in, but she really couldn't. So she was kind of working with basically 1.5 arms.
Yeah, which is amazing because you couldn't tell. Like, at all. She had to have popped it back in at some point, because at the end of the match, either she is a freaking wizard at selling, or she had gotten it. I mean, she was still in a lot of pain, but she was still able to, like, lift the arm and move the arm significantly. So, I'm sure
also,
damage was done, but...
The KOD on the floor was brutal, and I loved it.
That's getting a little bit into the weeds, don't you think?
Well,
we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, well, we are doing. I mean, they're still pacing themselves really well. We talked about the leg drop bomb. That was good. Although, I will have to say, every time they did the glam slam or an attempted glam slam, it ended awkwardly. Like, Becky landed on her shoulder, I think, the first time. And then the second time, they did that on the apron, and it looked even worse. It was like, it didn't land on this night.
Well, the first time she landed directly on her face.
Yeah, well, on her face and shoulder. It was just an awkward landing.
And I don't think that landing helped with the already shoulder arm injury she was already having.
Yeah.
That could not have helped.
Right. And then the other thing, too, is that they tried to do this spot around the ring post, and I think there was a botch where Bianca was supposed to be hitting the ring post, but she missed it because Becky didn't roll her in the right spots.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that. But they covered it up well enough, and they just kept going. I mean, these two have had a chemistry well enough to where I was sucked into what they were doing and thematically, where if they did something like that, I wasn't even that upset by it. I was like, I mean, honestly,
the thing is that they were able to play it off. That's one of the things that kind of sucks now with spots. And if you don't have the right wrestlers, if they miss a spot or they mess it up, they don't try to either fix it or play it off as natural as they can to a different spot.
Yeah, remember how much like sloppiness was in that Shawn Michaels Undertaker WrestleMania 25 match, but they're so damn over that like no one cares. This was so entertaining.
That one DDT.
Yeah.
The DDT where Shawn Michaels DDT the Undertaker into Shawn Michaels' chest.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I think these two they were so entertaining, and I was just captivated by what they were doing. I didn't even care. Although, I will say this. I loved when the gorilla press, they did, Bianca went for the gorilla press, but the arm gave. The sunset flip into the stunner was cool. However, I would like for them to stop doing the pull Bianca's hair into the ring post spot. Because we see it every match.
It's a Bianca Belair spot.
I know, but every time it gets countered. It's like, either the heels are stupid for even trying it because they're always going to get bashed into the ring post, or Bianca gets bashed in the ring post and she ought to know better about that. So it's like, I don't know. It just, we see it every match. And like you said, Josh, again, they were trying to do different stuff. It was one of those ones where I'm like, okay, I've seen this in almost every Bianca match in recent memory. And yes, it was called for here, but I'm kind of over it. Do it less frequently.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where they need to stop doing the Bianca Belair hair stuff. They need to start doing it less and less, so that way it's more, you know, when the time calls for it in a big time match, then it gets more important.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is a good time to ask this because I had this thought the other day. How long before every match of Bianca's is just so centered around the hair that they decide to cut off the gimmick?
That's a good question.
As a heel move.
When she retired.
What is she, Samson? My hair has been cut.
Delilah. Oh, God.
No.
Delilah.
What? Because the hair is so important to Bianca's look and her gimmick and the way she works, I don't think it happens unless she loses like a title versus hair match.
That's what I was thinking too. That would be interesting to have an extension versus title match.
Yeah, I mean, well, because I think that my worry is that Bianca's going to get pigeonholed into the gimmick. And then every match of hers is going to be related to the hair, it's going to have to do with the hair, and then you're going to lose out on all of the really good stuff that Bianca does otherwise in the ring. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I worry that it's going to become one-dimensional. Because she's more talented than just her gimmick hair.
Into every match having at least one hair spot.
Yeah.
So if Bianca ever loses her hair, Skylar will actually riot.
I will, because that will basically be a character assassination or a gimmick assassination. Now, here's the thing. Josh, again, you were saying about how when Bianca does the KOD on the outside, which is deadly.
Yes.
I love this little psychology thing. Bianca is obviously the babyface champion. She wants to beat Becky in the ring, but she can't pick up Becky because her arm has gotten significant damage. And Corey
And
Graves
the
on
clock
commentary
is
is like,
running out.
right, but Corey Graves on commentary is like, why don't you just get back in the ring? You don't have to. You don't have to win cleanly. Just win by any way. And Bianca's like, you know what? I can't pick her up. I'm just gonna go back in the ring and go back into the ring and try and win by countouts.
Yeah, that was really good. I loved that they did that in this match as well.
And it was also a nice way to get Becky a little bit of cheers when she got back into the ring, albeit it was a little rushed at 9. Just saying. Could have used a little bit more, gradual of a pop-up and run back into the ring.
Every time there's a Bianca Belair match, you know someone's not going to do the 10-count gimmick correctly.
I know, but I will say this. The referee was on the rules on this match. He was adherent, and that's something throughout the night. There were rules on this show. That is something I appreciate in WWE programming. The count was on. The referees were really on it, with the exception of a few spots, which we'll get to. But props to the officiating all night. It felt a lot more legit than it has in years previous.
But the other thing too, and we'll talk about this later, is that they actually did something. They started calling the referees by name.
I noticed this.
Yep, I noticed that as well.
And I was very happy for such. Because
they're not just robots, they're people too. But that whole sequence when Becky reverses Bianca's top rope thing, that was beautiful.
Yeah, the manhandle slam.
Rock bottom.
Yeah, well,
What they called it, the Beck bottom.
No.
Yeah.
Beck's bottom.
So she goes for a top rope.
The Beck hole slam.
Oh man.
No, if you called it the Becky bomb, that would be fine.
Okay, I could go with the Becky bomb.
So she hits the manhandle slam.
Fuck you, Sean. Becky bomb. Call it the Becky bomb.
It's a cover for 2, and then she gets up to the top and she tries to hit the manhandle slam, and instead Bianca counters it into a Spanish fly. And then very quickly, I thought, maybe a teeny bit rushed, but it was still, doesn't matter. Picking nits at this point. Gets her up KOD 1, 2, 3. And
I thought the counter into the Spanish fly was sick. And I love that immediately led to the finish.
Yeah.
We also should remember that all the people, when Bianca did the Spanish fly and then did the KOD, they were really popping for her. Because again, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nashville.
It's 50 miles away?
Yeah.
She's hometown hero.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And,
the hometown hero won on their hometown show.
I know.
The end is nigh. The moon is full. It's just strange things are happening.
And I'm getting hairy. But in any case, this was a great match. It was start to finish. It was a great match. Well paced, well taken care of by both. Makes both of them look good. However,
here comes
all right. Why don't we start with this is a 3-segment afterbirth here. So we start first with the hug, and Becky has finally
no. Hold on. Not the hug, the handshake.
Well, they get the handshake and then the hug, but here's why I have a problem with the hug. The handshake would have been fine. The handshake and lifting the arm is fine. I know I'm being a curmudgeon here, but I don't want to see hugging in my wrestling. I want to see angry people fighting in my wrestling, and if it's a sign of respect, a firm handshake saying, yes, you were the better person on this night, good job. I don't need hugs. I don't even like the Hershey's hugs. I don't need them.
Sean, just admit that you never got a hug from Dad that you really wanted, and that's why you're jealous of Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair.
I'm not jealous
I'll
of
give
anything.
you a big hug.
I don't need it. I don't need it. Please stop. I have pepper spray. But
do you want it shirtless?
Pepper spray.
No, I know. I swear this pepper spray will fry your nipples. Anyway.
That sounds.
But here's my question for you guys. Obviously, the handshake is the callback to when Becky returned at SummerSlam 2021.
Yes.
And this is basically the conclusion of their feud that's been going for a year.
Yes.
How would you grade the Bianca and Becky feud?
Well, when you look at the major matches that they've had, their match at WrestleMania was quite good. One of the best of the whole 2-night show. Which I had to revise my original opinion of upon revisiting. But really, the truth is, I have to kind of tip my cap to Vince and company here. Because the matches themselves were good, and they knew to pull the trigger on this for a full year to go end to end with it. It's one of those things where WWE does know how to do it. It's just that they couldn't do it logically because of who was in charge. And this felt like a logical, simple, understandable conclusion to something that I think has been one of the highlights of WWE programming in recent years.
I thought the feud was good at points and same old at other points. I mean, their first match, like first actual match, was at Extreme Rules, which ended via disqualification, and we all know how much I love that. And
yes,
then the whole Becky and Charlotte, are they going to shoot on each other, happened, and then we got the WrestleMania match, which was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite match of the night. And then we had a triple threat match at Hell in a Cell, Sean's favorite kind of match.
Oh, almost vomited.
And then I honestly thought their SummerSlam match was the best match that these two have had against each other. I thought it was... Maybe the Extreme Rules match would have been better if it actually had a finish. I definitely thought it was better than their WrestleMania match. But all in all, I'd probably give this feud... Because I didn't love everything about it. I'd give it like... somewhere in between a C+ and a B-.
How about you, Sky?
I think it's a solid B-/B. I agree there are things that are better. Main thing is that I think I still have to go back to the argument. Bianca should have won the Royal Rumble in 2022 instead of Ronda Rousey. You easily could have had Ronda and Bianca be the final two, and then Charlotte screws Ronda, so you could build to that feud.
I would have rather Nikki Ash won the Royal Rumble than Ronda Rousey, honestly.
I don't want to talk about Ronda Rousey yet. Can we just leave Ronda alone for now?
But my point is that I think there are missteps that they had, especially at points where it felt like Bianca was never going to get it over and they were going to have somebody else take on Becky. I was really worried they were going to have Ronda do it. But my point, though, is that I think for what we know with WWE storylines, this feels like the one storyline besides the other one that started last year at SummerSlam. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yep.
This feels like the first kind of feud that they actually successfully have done in a long time, in a year that mostly was positive. At the very least, the best match, and I agree, this SummerSlam match was the best match of that feud. At least it came at the end, and they ended on a high note.
Agreed.
And then
now we can get to the second.
Even though there were a few things that I didn't agree with in this feud, especially the beginning, when we all hated the beginning of this. We all slammed the beginning of this. But they stuck the landing, and it's weird seeing WWE stick the landing. But again, it's the change of the guard, so.
It's because we had no faith they were going to stick the landing.
Yeah.
And do you blame us?
Yeah, well, no, I don't. And speaking of things that were turning some heads, as we were turning a blind eye to WWE as trust is concerned, but then they turn our heads back around because out comes Bayley. And she walks down the boomerang ramp that they set up that's like 1,000 yards long. And she talks just out loud into what was discernibly the camera mic. And Bianca's like, oh, snap, hey. And then Bayley's like, I've got some more. And then out comes Dakota Kai to mostly confusion. Because most of the people in Nashville, and this is not a knock on them, you just got to remember that this is like their first appearance, basically, on main roster television. Not many people knew who Io Shirai, now named Io Sky, or Dakota Kai were.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was the point of bringing those two out. Here's my thought. I think bringing those two out was Triple H talking to the smarts. Because I think Triple H talked to all forms of fans on this show. He talked to the lapsed fans that used to watch and no longer do. We'll talk about that in the main event. We'll talk about the casual fans, about like keeping some level of presentation that you're still going to enjoy and that is going to be good for the whole family, even though things are going to be logical. And then they talk to the Smarks. And I think this was Triple H talking to the Smarks going, okay, look, we know the people you love and we know how dedicated you are. We're going to try and make this something palatable so that these people you can be impressed with and you can enjoy while they get some main roster exposure and kind of used to how the system is. We're going to try and make this work for all fans of all kinds. Because Triple H has learned and studied a lot about Smarks during his NXT days. Because that was what he catered to.
I also think this was him saying, yeah, the main roster's women's division is kind of laughably hollow, so we need some more people in it.
Well, and then they all come to the ring, and before they surround Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch comes back up and says, "Come on, I'm Irish!" And they're like, "Well, you're Irish, huh?" And she's Bianca. All right, I guess we'll just dip. We have the numbers advantage, but, like, call us 401 deuces. And
408, you asshole. Bay Area.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know the number. What was the number?
408.
Oh, I didn't even know. I was joking. I didn't even know the area code. I was just saying random numbers. I'm surprised I got close. So, yeah, no offense. That was completely made up off the top of the dome. So,
all right, none taken. Now, are you ready for my insider information?
Almost.
Yes, give us some insider information to us outsiders.
Almost. What did you think about this interaction with the tension and the three of them coming up, and then Becky standing by Bianca, and then them backing down? Josh, again, what did you think of this final piece?
I took it as Becky still wants a shot at the women's title, but she knows that she's not going to get it if these other people are in the way. Plus, from the way the handshake went down and the hug that Sean loves so much, it's like the respect for Bianca was beaten into Becky. So she's not like a complete and total babyface turn, but kind of hinting at it. Because, again, people want to cheer Becky Lynch.
Yes.
People don't really want to boo Becky Lynch.
Correct.
So I think it's smart them hinting that they're going to be turning her back to a babyface. Plus, I mean, it was mostly just intrigue. Like, oh, what's going to happen next in the women's division? It's interesting. We need to tune in and see what's going to happen next. I felt it was a lot of intrigue that I am actually kind of interested in.
Sky?
Well, would you like to know what happened on Monday Night Raw?
Not yet.
Would you tell me what happened on Monday Night Raw?
Not yet, damn it. Get back behind yourselves. Because here's my thing. I'm going to go on another rant here, as I'm known to do. Because I personally thought that this afters with this not confrontation fell a teensy bit flat. And here's why. You have the numbers advantage, even though it's Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. I understand discretion's the better part of valor, and we don't want any part of it, but you've already come out here. Your intention was to come out and confront. You still have the numbers advantage. To me, if this were me, and now, so I understand this is not how everybody would want it. This is not how everyone would view it. But for me, what I would have liked to have seen was all of the, I would have rather not had Dakota Kai and Io Sky have their own entrances. I would have rather them come out with Bayley and just have Bayley's entrance be longer because she's already got the pop, introduce the two, and then, let the commentators talk about it, but, Bayley's got backup. That's enough for everyone to understand. She comes in, they do the same kind of face-to-face. Bayley slaps Bianca Belair in the face, and then she kind of backs away as Becky and Bianca take on Io and Dakota. And there's just a little bit of back and forth. There's like a couple punches, and then, Io and Dakota Kai kind of leave, but Bayley doesn't get involved in the fight. So Bayley is the mastermind who's got two, not necessarily flunkies, but backup, who are obviously, upon their first glance, not going to be toe-to-toe with Becky and Bianca, but it at least establishes that they're planning for animosity. It doesn't matter who's there, and they're going to do whatever they can to get whoever they can to get that Raw Women's Championship. That would have been how I did it. It was fine. I'm talking about a cherry on an already very well-made cake.
I think that could have worked if they did go that route. But I'm perfectly fine with what they did. Although, again, I also think it would have been a little bit better if they had some kind of physical altercation where Bayley's obviously the puppet master and doesn't really get involved. But again, I'm
okay.
fine with
Okay. Hold on. Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Did either of you watch Raw?
No. So now, Skylar,
I feel like you knew the answer to that question before you asked.
Now, Skylar, will you tell us what happened on Monday Night Raw?
Tell us what happened on Raw, Skylar.
Well, you guys just wasted 5 minutes because everything you guys just said happened on Raw.
All right.
That's our style.
Anyways, the point is that Becky Lynch opens the show with her arm in a sling saying she had a tough battle, but damn it, she has respect for Bianca because she took her to her limit and she knows she's not ready quite yet, but she will be champion again. But for right now, Bianca is the champion. And Becky gained respect for her, and that's why she couldn't stand around and let Bayley do whatever she was going to do.
Fair.
Now, Bianca comes out. Becky and Bianca do the handshake again. Becky hands Bianca the microphone. She walks back, gives Bianca her moment to do her babyface promo, where she talks about the battle at SummerSlam. It was one of her best matches, and she looks forward to when Becky gets healed up and can come back and wrestle again because, yeah, they talked about the separated shoulder. Bianca is talking about Bayley and saying, Bayley, I fought you back then, but I'm stronger now. I will beat you and your little posse. The posse of Bayley finds Becky Lynch backstage and injures her shoulder even more by basically Dakota and Io were the ones that were doing the damage. Bayley was kind of just on the side giving instructions.
Which is perfect because that's what she should be doing at this point.
And then they said they were going to do more. There was a match with Alexa Bliss and Asuka. I don't hold your breath, Sean.
No.
It was a 2 or 3 minute match until the point where Bayley and her group start attacking them. Bianca makes a save and says, "You know what? I want to fight one of you right here, right now, tonight." Io Shirai or Io Sky says, "You know what? I'll take you on." So those two have a match. Before Bianca or Io can win, Bayley gets involved. So does Dakota Kai. It's a beatdown of Bianca. And then Alexa Bliss and Asuka come in, and they help out Bianca, and it turns into basically a giant fight to end the show.
That sounds like quite an interesting angle, baby. Sounds like something the Dream might have written himself.
But here's the thing, though, is that, listen to that. I just described 4 different segments / 2 or 3 different promos that were on Raw about the women's title and these women. They're giving the women time.
Well, let's see if the women that are getting the time can deliver.
Okay, Josh, again, you first.
What I said was, it's about time that they're doing something interesting with the new women that they have. Because I'm so.
All right, now, Sean, you say your thing.
Okay.
Your thing.
All right.
So now,
are you now ready for the insider information I have?
Yes.
Tell us about your insider information, Scott.
That's gonna be a thing now. Apparently, Vince McMahon had no intention of turning Becky babyface whatsoever. But the second that Vince was gone, Triple H said, "You know what? We need Becky to be a babyface, so we're gonna turn her babyface."
And I'll tell you something too.
That makes sense.
I'll tell you something too. I mean, you guys heard it. And if, for those of you who haven't, in case this is your first show, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Switch that bell button to all on the Court-Martail podcast and TAW Gaming so you can see and hear everything that's going on. Because last week, when Abizzle and I reviewed the live Bridgeport show, Sky, if you recall, both Amir and I commented that Becky Lynch was getting the bigger cheers of anyone in that Fatal 4-Way match. Which means Triple H is listening to the fans. For reals this time.
It's weird. It's weird having them not fight the fans over a reaction over a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, let me get to the next insider information. Apparently, Bayley was not scheduled to appear at SummerSlam at all before Vince McMahon was gone. And that was a Triple H change.
Worth it. Even if she's not going to compete, just her being the orchestrator of 2 women is intriguing enough because she obviously can talk. So she'll be able to talk for both of them if she has to, which is something Io Shirai or Io Sky really could use.
Yep.
I am so fucking happy that Vince McMahon is not in control of this goddamn show anymore. It's not even funny.
That'll be a theme tonight.
And in fact, let's continue, shall we? Bayley was one of the women who wanted to pitch a stable that she wanted to lead and had pitched Dakota Kai and Io Shirai in the past before Dakota Kai was gone from WWE and Io Shirai was about to be gone because Io wanted to be on the main roster and Vince McMahon never gave her the opportunity. So when Vince McMahon was gone, Triple H said, you know what, let's make the stable happen. Dakota Kai and Io Shirai, they didn't get the message about it until basically a couple days before, and they flew in the night before to make sure that they were there so they could debut the stable that Bayley had really wanted to do.
Which means that he's listening to the talent as well as listening to the fans.
The fact that this is shocking is sad.
It is. It really is.
Right. And we have to remember, Dakota Kai, she was gone. She was one of the WWE releases.
Yeah.
And Io Shirai was about
released
to be...
by the WWE.
Hey, but there's nobody's getting released here right now.
Yeah, but play that theme anyways because it's so catchy.
It. So you've been released by the WWE. Best of luck in your future endeavors. You've been released by the WWE. And now you gotta go wrestle for Impact. You've been released by the WWE. Best of luck in your future endeavors. You've been released by the WWE. And now what? Pal. You gotta wrestle for Impact. Impact. And you know that pay gon' be so low.
Anyways, the point though is that.
By the way, before you continue, I hope all of you at home enjoyed the switch from Vince graphics to Triple H and Stephanie graphics. You're welcome.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's going to be amazing. But yeah, the whole thing is that Triple H is listening to the fans and listening to the talent, and he wants to work with them. Because again, Io Shirai and Dakota Kai are both Triple H's girls. They're girls that Triple H and his crew back at the old NXT singled out as being good talents that they wanted. And that's how they want to build their women's division.
I'm all for it. This
makes sense.
He's seeing what the problems are, and this is what makes me suspect that Triple H has secretly just been harboring all of this all along. And I'm not saying he's the one who did all this, but it's like I truly think that Triple H knew that once he took over, he was ready to be like, okay, I know what the problems are, and we can at least start fixing some of these. And that was really evidenced pretty much throughout the entire night.
And also,
now that we spent an hour talking about the first match, we should probably get on to the next match.
But one last thing. Imagine being Triple H and for years having NXT and everyone loving NXT, and everyone that gets called up from NXT just gets ruined. Now he actually has an opportunity to set things right. Triple H has got to be a happy man.
If only he hadn't lost the entirety of his staff prior to this happening.
Well, do you want to know more insider information I have?
Go for it.
Tell me more insider.
Go for it. Partner.
But
ripping more of that fat bong. Continue.
But more to it. Apparently, because Triple H is now in charge, and the talents and people that were fired before or let go are seeing what Triple H is doing, a lot more talent now in WWE are willing to resign when their contracts come up, and people that have been released are more willing to go back to WWE because Triple H is in charge.
Well, I want to talk about that specifically at the end of the show. So,
looking at you, Tony.
Put a pin in that. Because I want to get back to that, because that is the key. That's one of the most intriguing things about this whole show. But speaking of things that were oddly intriguing, and I know that we're going to lose JoshAgeddon on this one, and I wish we hadn't, because this was surprising. This was genuinely surprising. It is Logan Paul versus the non-in-shape Logan Paul.
Accurate.
Hey, the Miz was in decent shape.
No, well, he's just in. I said less in shape. I'm not saying he isn't in shape. He's just less in shape. And to be fair, I think the camera actually does Miz a disservice as far as how in shape he is, because he looks way better in person than he does on camera. It's a weird thing. But now that I just saw him wrestle AJ Styles, which also makes me understand why we got AJ a little bit later, but this matchup was all about Miz having tiny balls. And
it was not just about Logan Paul being a really damn good athlete and picking this wrestling thing up pretty naturally.
Well, that's what it ended up becoming. But originally the story for this was Miz has tiny balls. And that chant was one of the most fun things about the live show. Because and Miz does a really good job of being upset by being told he has tiny balls. He really feels disturbed by it. And I appreciate that. But let me ask you something. With the exception of the teaser it got later, does it not hurt your soul a little bit seeing Ciampa with The Miz?
Yes. It's agony.
Okay. I have more insider information, but we'll say that.
My God. Keep it in your pants, Meltzer. This is.
Tell me about your inside information, Skylar, about Ciampa.
We'll get there, Bubblegum.
By the way, Sean, I'm going to give you some really damn good credits. Do you want to know what you told me on an episode of the Court-Martail podcast in January? I think it was.
Tell me what I said in the Court-Martail podcast in January.
You said.
He's screaming at you now, Skylar.
We were talking about Tommaso Ciampa.
The mailman.
We were talking about Tommaso Ciampa to the main roster, and you said, quote me on this. In 6 months, I bet his name is going to be Ciampa. Just watch WWE.
Yeah. I mean...
I'm surprised Rhea Ripley isn't Ripley.
Or Rhea.
We'll see how many of these people get their names back, because I feel like that is going to happen before too long.
Top of the list, Austin Theory. I hate Theory
Agreed.
So much.
Agreed.
It is so stupid.
But
anyways, let's talk about this match.
Did you notice that Maurice was actually holding a pair of balls?
Yes. I saw.
I was like,
no.
Now that is funny. I was like, okay, they're really going all in on this. The Miz had a photo of him skull-crushing finaleing whatever. I don't care. But this was another formatting change. Miz didn't even get into the ring before Logan Paul got his entrance. They didn't even let him get through it.
I did notice that, and that made me laugh.
But to Triple H's credit, he knew there was a show, and it had to keep moving. And so Logan Paul comes in, and boy, were the people, they did not want to cheer Logan Paul. And
you blame them?
Because they know who Logan Paul is and what he is, and that's the thing, and that's what confused, I think, all of us. When we heard Logan Paul's like, I want to be a babyface, and everyone's like, no, you suck as a person.
How?
It's like, but I will say, he won me over here. He won a lot of people over here. And
well, he had to do it by wrestling a damn good match.
And it was, I will say this was not as good as the opening match, but it served its purpose. I think that Miz, to me, I was more impressed with the Miz for being something of a ring general in this, given the fact that while Logan Paul is very impressive, he is still only had 2 matches.
There's very green.
Yeah, there's a lot that Logan Paul's going to have to learn, but Miz did a really good job directing traffic here. To the point of like, all right, I don't think I've ever given Miz the psychological in-ring credit he may have deserved, but this definitely put Miz in a better light to me, and reminded me of the Miz that actually I cared for at one point.
Full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, I skipped this match. I did not watch. I had negative interest, so my thoughts and opinions are what you would expect on this particular occasion. So continue, Sean.
So why don't you go stay in the corner and then do whatever you need to do.
What makes you think I'm not already in the corner playing with my nipples that he put he put that sauce on?
That's what you missed, JoshAgeddon, was the squabbling on commentary, because then it started getting. They need to get Byron Saxton and Corey Graves as far away from each other on a commentary table as they possibly can.
I can imagine.
I am so done with these two. I am so done with these two going back and forth and back and forth. Each of them individually, when they're not with each other, is at least halfway palatable. But the second that these two are in the same vicinity as each other, it just turns into a begawking fest. I have heard The View have less chicken squabbling than these two. Think about that. And it's just, but to redeem that part, we got a collar and elbow tie-up.
We're 2 for 2?
We are
I'll
2
take
for
your
2.
word for it.
Yeah.
But were there any collar and elbow types on the pre-show?
There was no matches.
That was the whole pre-show. It was literally the whole panel just collar and elbow typing each other.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And it was still more entertaining than what they would have said. The fireman's kid, what I thought was really cool was there's some stuff that Logan Paul did that was kind of innovative, whether it was just him not knowing or just the way that it looked. Like that fireman's carry where he rotated his whole body to also land flat with The Miz. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yep, that was really good. His springboards were pretty good, although the one to the outside to The Miz missed completely.
Yeah. Well, Charlotte wasn't on the show. Somebody had to homage it.
Someone had to do a moonsault and miss completely.
Somebody had to miss a moonsault entirely on the show.
Completely or crush someone's skull.
Listen, this is still WWE pay-per-view. There's certain things that you just cannot change.
You need to have someone do a shitty outside dive.
Yeah.
Well,
so
hold on. Speaking of shitty moves, Logan Paul should not do the figure 4.
No, but it was an homage to Miz's shitty figure 4. We have to have one of those on every single program. So, you know,
imagine this, Joshua. Logan Paul gets the figure 4 in on The Miz and does not hook one of the legs.
Yeah. And
this is why I didn't watch this match. It would have given me gastrointestinal distress.
However,
although that part where The Miz put Logan Paul into the ropes and then did that code breaker was nasty.
That definitely was. I will say this, whether because he's green or otherwise, Logan Paul was laying in his strikes. He had some very good gut punches and some very good punches. And even his kick when Miz would charge him into the ring, shoot him into the corner and then charge after him. When Logan Paul would kick the leg, he would put his legs up and then just snap right at the end of the shot. And I loved how that looked because it looked like he was actually trying to hit him. He was laying it in. Miz's punches looked like a toddler.
Accurate. I've seen so many shitty Miz punches. They're just an assault on my eyes.
It's not his best, but I will say...
His open palm bitch slaps.
Yeah. I will say, though, one of the... whether his punches sucked or not, one of the things I really got to give Logan Paul credit for is his selling. It's inexperienced.
Emphasis on paw.
He's trying. It's inexperienced, but he's trying. And I give him credit for that. We said it at WrestleMania. He is a natural, so he is picking certain things up very, very quickly.
It's just amazing that this guy is getting it so well when so many WWE trained guys just don't.
Yeah, well, but that's just for now. Who knows the way that even training is going to change from these people? And also, it's interesting.
Hopefully, dramatically.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different now that the expectations for the main roster are different. But I will say this, speaking of Corey Graves, one of the things that did bother me, and I understand why they did it, because every celebrity has to do moves of somebody else, and Logan Paul did about 2/3 of Miz's arsenal, and Corey Graves said, well, I want to see what he's able to do when he's not doing all of Miz's moves. And I'm like, you're not wrong.
He's not wrong, but it's also kind of just a little bit of a psychology thing of anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah, well, especially considering how this match ended. I understand that.
Especially that top rope blockbuster. That was good.
Yeah, in a way, this match reminded me of that match between Velveteen Dream and Ricochet in NXT.
You're right.
You're right. Because it had a very similar type of feeling to the whole psychology of the match and what they were trying to get across.
Another one of my favorites, the Velveteen Dream.
I know. We're just we're bringing you super happy fun time. Here, drink this monster.
All the greatest hits, ladies and gentlemen. The last time I drank a Monster, I ended up at the CIW dungeon, so keep that thing away from me.
Well, okay, Josh, again, it's just too bad. Oh, you will not shit talk Velveteen Dream because, as a wrestler,
because he's doing enough of that himself.
But it's him versus Bray Wyatt in a Children on a Pole match.
But my God, in any case, good gravy.
We're censoring that. Censor that.
Oh no, we're too deep into the podcast to censor that out. But instead, then we get to Ciampa's one and only real part in this match. And here's the thing. I understand the case for why this was fun, and I also understand the case for why this kind of hurt the match, because it was a bit of a distraction. Ciampa comes up onto the apron and goes, "Hey, I'm a Ciampa." And the ref's like, "You can't stand up here. You can't stand up here. You're supposed to be down there. You can't stand up here. You know what? You're out of here." And Ciampa's like,
trying to find your first name.
And then Ciampa's like, "No. I'm going to sit right here, and you make me leave, motherfucker." And that was fantastic. I loved that. Where Ciampa's like, "You know what? No. You kick me out."
He goes to ringside, grabs the chair, puts the chair down, and then does his clapping gimmick.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I loved it. And then, here's where because it kind of got a little sports entertainment-y on me when they were having a pretty good wrestling match up to that point. AJ Styles' music plays, and Logan Paul and Miz basically just have to, sit there and sell as AJ Styles comes through the crowd and hits a phenomenal forearm onto Ciampa, and then they just kind of fight into the back.
They fought off.
But I will say this. The prospect of a proper AJ Styles and Tommaso Ciampa match, give me that. Give me all that.
Give me that instead of Logan Paul versus The Miz.
Okay.
But anyway,
and then Logan Paul does a phenomenal forearm in tribute to AJ.
No,
well, not very well.
No. He did a forearm. There was nothing phenomenal about that forearm, to the point where Saxton even said that. That was the funniest thing. I'm like, I just said it too. And,
I can just imagine in his lifeless, bullied person voice, that wasn't very phenomenal.
Yeah, but
now we're going to get to the highlight of the match and the spot that I know Sean hates the most.
No, I loved this. This was ridiculous. And I'll tell you why I loved this. Because they kept adhering to the rules regardless. There was a ref count. They beat the count. Every time there was a ref count. Every time they beat the count. It wasn't just, let's lay out there for 4 minutes so we can get all the replays in and then come back in and keep going with the match, making the ref look like a total knob end.
AEW.
But yeah, what we're talking about is Logan Paul puts The Miz on the announce table. Logan Paul goes out the top rope. Maurice is like, "Hey, you can't do that." Logan Paul grabs a piece of the turnbuckle and throws it at her like, "Yeah, I can, bitch." And then Frog splashes The Miz through the table.
Beautifully! I mean, he rotated perfectly to land exactly where he needed to so that Miz did not take any sort of realistic damage from it. That was wildly... I mean, for somebody who has wrestled 2 matches, to land a frog splash that perfectly onto The Miz, onto a table, when you've done that little wrestling, that was goddamn impressive.
Yep, and then Maurice plays her part. Logan Paul rolls Miz back into the ring. Maurice gets on the ring apron to complain to the ref. Miz grabs that card, which, and tries to hit... And tries to hit Logan Paul, almost hits Maurice, but Maurice gets down. Miz is shaking like, "Oh my God, what did I almost do?"
I almost hit my wife. And then skull-crushing finale, 1, 2, 3, Logan Paul wins, and gets cheered by Nashville.
To a huge pop.
Wins over Nashville, and I gotta admit, while he may still be a piece of literal human trash in real life, kayfabe-wise, he made a fan out of me. That was a hell of a performance with somebody who he should not have had that kind of a performance with. Like, he should never have had a good match with The Miz.
Sean, I will take your word for it.
I was very pleasantly surprised by both of these individuals that made both of them. I mean, was it a little overbooked? Yeah. Yeah. No denying that. But all in all, it was a good piece of business. I'm not upset about that whatsoever. Sky?
Well, are you ready for my insider information?
Oh, okay.
Tell me about your insider information, Scholar.
Apparently, this match went long, and because it went long by about 5 minutes, they had to take time away from another match on the evening. We'll let you know what match that was later on.
Was it Ronda and Liv?
Oh, could you tell?
Oh, thank God. It ended up being better for them.
Well, hold on. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yes.
But let's also do my second half of this gimmick. Do you want to know what happened on Monday Night Raw?
Tell me what happened on Monday Night Raw.
Please tell me what happened on Monday Night Raw, Skyler.
Please tell me what happened.
Okay, first off, get away from me, Mickey Mouse. Secondly, they had 2 triple threats, Sean's favorite matches, on Monday Night Raw to help determine a number 1 contender for the United States Championship. AJ Styles won 1 triple threat, Ciampa won the other one, and those 2 wrestled later on in the evening in what was arguably a match that tore the house down, 15-minute match that Ciampa won.
Oh boy!
Excellent.
So Ciampa is now the number 1 contender for the United States Championship and will be wrestling against Bobby Lashley next week on Monday Night Raw. And supposedly, it's a push that Triple H wants to give Ciampa. So maybe Ciampa has a shot at the U.S. title?
And boy, what would it be to beat Bobby Lashley?
Screw it, give it to him.
Yeah. At this point, I mean, given the way that they made Bobby look on this night, I don't think it's going to hurt him if he does lose it to Ciampa.
Especially if we know that The Miz is going to be involved, and maybe that becomes a feud afterwards.
But before we get to that...
Can we talk about something else real quickly, though?
Is it this commercial?
Yes, what the fuck is this?
What commercial was it?
It was the Maximum Male Models had a commercial.
I straight up muted my TV.
Oh, you shouldn't have. This was one of those it's so bad, it's good commercials. Like, I could just watching the visual of them just like pouring water on their chests and just like Eli hearing.
The second I saw their stupid names, I looked away and I was like, I can't wait to start watching the show again.
Hearing Eli Drake.
Josh, again, you have to go back and watch this.
Oh my God.
This was
absolutely not.
No, you have to. It's so funny.
This was so cringe.
I sat through the Alexa Bliss Lily Dolph WWE credit card ad. I'm good.
Look, that one was worse than this. This at least showed some personality.
I can tolerate before I actually die.
Oh, I thought that they actually showed a little personality in this commercial because it was a little. I mean, it was silly, but it was different kind of silly. It was more of like a WWE gimmick silly rather than a very like written for 4-year-olds commercial. But it was just odd. It was just so odd. And apparently now Max Dupree is back with them, even though he wasn't with them, but now he's back with them. I don't know. I'm confused.
Because Vince McMahon didn't like Max Dupree, and Triple H said, no, I need him. And you know who Max Dupree is, right?
Eli Drake.
LA Knight.
Eli Drake.
Yeah. That's right.
Los Angeles Knight.
So Triple H giving Eli Drake another chance. Hey, Sean, Triple H is making your guys something, right?
He's trying. Oh, he's trying. But
let's be clear, it's a very stupid gimmick, but it's so over the top and cheesy and cringe. It's so funny at the same time too.
Maybe they'll be able to turn it into something actually worthwhile. I mean, in its Vince McMahon iteration, garbage. No redemption for it. You know, just chalk it away. Maybe with Triple H and maybe with the guys actually having a little more creative freedom, maybe that will allow them to turn it into something that will be actually interesting. I'm not going to rule it out just yet.
Right.
But
now we get the next match. Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship.
This is when I started watching the show again.
Then why don't you tell us what you thought?
First off, after the first match was so good, I was brought quickly back down to planet Earth. I don't know why, but for like the first couple minutes of this match, Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley, the camera cuts were so nauseating. I got so mad and actually started yelling at my TV. I want them to hang Kevin Dunn from a flagpole on top of Titan Towers. I am so... Kick Beaver Boy out. I can't take it anymore. It was so bad. There was like 30 different cuts in the first like 10 seconds. It was insane. And it almost ruined the entire match for me. And then the rest of the match was fine, and then it just ended, and I was like, okay, that was fine. Really kind of made Austin Theory look a little bit like shit, but whatever.
Yeah. I'm a little worried about Theory.
Super crazy about it.
I'm a little worried about Theory, to be honest with you, because he was kind of Vince's boy, and I don't know whether he's going to have the same kind of momentum, even though he deserves it. I think he's a good wrestler. He's definitely a good, he's good on the microphone. They obviously see something in him. But given the way that SummerSlam went, I don't know if he's the guy that Triple H is going to be putting at the forefront of the show.
Yeah,
it feels like
I
it's
feel
too
that
soon.
too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's too soon.
I feel like they're trying to cool him off a little bit.
Which, honestly, Sky, to your point, they should. Because it is too soon, I think. And I think Triple H knows
seriously, the camera cuts at the beginning of this match were so fucking awful. It made me so angry.
Let's go back for a second, okay? Can we talk about this weird Bobby Lashley pedestal thing?
Yeah. I didn't quite understand that.
They've been doing this gimmick now where Bobby Lashley poses on a pedestal as part of his entrance with a new, like, opening thing to his theme song. I get it. It's like, look at this Titan. Look at those muscles. Look at that power.
I preferred the background of him just beating the shit out of people with lightning everywhere, and then the roar, and then he comes out. That was great.
I remember the masterpiece Chris Masters too, WWE. Thank you for reminding me. And, yeah, that's kind of what I got out of that. Did we get a collar and elbow tie-up in this match?
No,
I don't
because
think
you got a hot
Didn't
start.
Austin Theory start off by hitting him with the briefcase?
Yeah, and I gotta say, this is another one of those hashtag bad formatting things. They're both in the ring. The only thing that didn't happen is the referee waving his hand. I mean, wouldn't that be like the start of the match? I don't know. It was just weird. It's like, why not do that while Bobby's on the outside if you're gonna do that? But you're already both in the ring, and then we're just supposed to believe that, like, oh, well, he just hit him before the bell, so that's fine.
Well, the trick was that Bobby Lashley was posing, and then I don't know. It was one of those things where, again, Austin Theory just wanted an advantage. It's a hot start, but they've been feuding for a while, so it's okay, I guess.
Theory did also drop the briefcase when he went to pose and laughed it off.
Oh yeah. I do remember that.
But to be fair,
but yeah, it was one of those things where Austin Theory, he got destroyed by Bobby Lashley last time, so he needed to have an advantage, and the briefcase was his advantage.
Yeah,
I feel like he got more destroyed in this match than at Money in the Bank, because at Money in the Bank at least he did stuff.
I agree.
Lashley just beat him up and ended it.
Yeah, this felt a lot more like a fight where Bobby was just like outclassing Theory. Even though I learned that Theory is a southpaw, I did not know that. Lefties unite.
It's not a southpaw.
I think this is one of those things where Austin Theory, at this point, he's not going to beat Bobby Lashley, because Bobby Lashley has been a 2-time WWE champion. He's Bobby fucking Lashley.
Yeah.
He's not going to be taken down by Austin Theory at this point, because Austin Theory is not on his level.
Yeah.
And it still bothers me that Lashley has the U.S. title again.
But did that mean that Austin had to tap immediately after the Hurt Lock? Like, I don't know. I feel like just the way that this was like, okay, back down, son. Get back down for a little while. But there is one thing on this match specifically that made me smile more than anything else in the rest of the night. Do you know what it is, JoshAgeddon?
I feel like I'll immediately be like, yup, as soon as you say it.
Halfway through this match, some guy facing the hard cam pulled out a sign. And on that sign read, and I quote, "Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man."
I mean,
yes to that fan. Yes to that fan.
That is the truth. That is 100% the truth, but...
Here's my thing. That took balls to bring to a WWE show. That sign will get you into more fights than any of the wrestling opinions you have. That's a
I'll
sign.
do one better. Spider-Man 3 is the best Spider-Man movie.
No, that's a take way too far.
See there, you're proving my point. Props to that fan, because that was dangerous territory you stepped into, sir, and I appreciate your candor.
Spider-Man 2 is my least favorite of the Spider-Man trilogy.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back for a second. Josh, again, you said you didn't like the fact that Bobby Lashley's the U.S. champion, right?
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it feels like a retread.
In a way, it does, but at the same time, has the U.S. title ever felt important in the last few years, unless it was on Bobby Lashley's waist?
No, but it meant more when he was the U.S. champion the first time, in 2020. It doesn't feel like it means the same thing with him having it again.
Well, not having MVP because he's trying to get over the unget-overable.
Yep.
Doesn't help. I think that's...
would you like to know more insider information?
Lay it on us.
Tell me more insider information, Skyward.
You're turning into
Bobby
Rocky
Lashley.
Dennis.
That's a deep cut. Bobby Lashley apparently has had discussions with Triple H about getting the Hurt Business back together, except with Almas as his new muscle.
I was about to say yes, and now I'm screaming no.
Well, here's the thing. You can have Almas do a couple of shitty-looking chops behind Bobby Lashley. Imagine someone like Bobby Lashley that needs muscle behind him.
Does that make Bobby Lashley Shawn Michaels?
In a way, yeah.
Does that make MVP Jose Lothario? Oh, man.
That makes either Shelton Benjamin or Cedric Alexander or Marty Jannetty.
They're both combined one Marty Jannetty.
Yes.
No, because Shelton Benjamin's had a career.
Marty Jannetty.
Shelton Benjamin has had a career, goddammit.
They Dragon Ball Z fuse and turn into Marty Jannetty. And that's how it goes. And instead of the M for Majin Buu, they have an R for rockers stenciled onto the forehead. So, all in all...
Let's go on to the next match.
Yeah, Bobby's punches looked great. As did a lot of the punches all night looked great. But this match up next did not really. It's Judgment Day versus the Mysterios. Okay. Rhea Ripley's hot as fuck.
That's the one takeaway.
That was my first takeaway.
Within the context of the match, she's a fucking dumbass.
It's
a no DQ tag team match.
Yeah,
where she got involved one time.
Well, because I genuinely think Rhea Ripley is more hurt than any of us know. That's why she's, I think, kind of like keeping a little bit of a reserved tone and kind of just shouting instructions to the guys. And
this was my
notice that she hasn't
favorite
been
thing
involved in the
on the show that
women's
I
title
watched.
stuffs.
Sirs, you have talked simultaneously. Scott! Go first. Skylar! Skylar! Are you alive?
Sorry, But I think Rhea Ripley, if she was healthy, she probably would be involved in the women's title stuff. So
I would hope so. I mean, now I would say probably. Now, Josh again.
This was my least favorite thing on the show that I watched.
Yeah.
This was just... It wasn't awful. It wasn't bad. It was just so painfully... This is a no disqualification match because we need Edge to spear two people and then the other people win.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it coming from a mile away.
Let's get... Hold on. Let's get into an even bigger thing, okay?
The Judgment Day is dead.
They're dead without Edge.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder why they were going to do supernatural stuff that caused Edge to be like, yeah, no. Like, why even bother? Because
Vince McMahon sucks ass.
But, speaking of bad formatting, we get more B-roll during an entrance. And I'm like, boo this B-roll during an entrance. Then Dominic Guerrero came out with his father's haircut.
Wait, Dominic Guerrero or Dominic Mysterio?
Dominic Guerrero came out with his father's haircut, the mullet.
It looks so bad on him.
And yes,
Eddie
it does.
Can pull it off. Dominic looks like an awkward, chunky teenager.
But then my jaw dropped because they got a fucking beer endorsement. On WWE programming, they promoted a beer.
Times are a-changing.
Wow.
Order
Hell
Victoria.
has frozen over so many times on this evening.
Yeah. I know I'm going to cause JoshAgeddon to hard disagree with me here, but Finn Balor is useless.
Hard disagree. I love Finn Balor. It's not his fault.
I would say that 70% of it is his fault, but a good 30% is just what the environment he's been put in.
I am the Uno reverse card of that opinion, but I know that you're not. I know you and Finn Balor don't exactly. You're not exactly a high school sweetheart.
I've never liked him. There's been only a couple matches of his that I've ever really enjoyed and can say, wow, that was actually impressive. But for the most part, it's just been, he's just meh for me. He just doesn't do it for me. And clearly he doesn't do it for WWE either, because look where he is and how quickly adding him into Judgment Day killed the faction, and now he's taken a pin for the nearly 50 Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
The thing is, they start going in on this, but I do have to say, for a no disqualification match, this was pretty tame. There was
very tame.
There was a lot more tag team match in this no disqualification match than I thought, and to that, I would say I was actually pleasantly surprised.
If this was AEW, they would have been in the aisleway for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, they did kind of start brawling at the front, and they started getting into it, and the ref wasn't really trying to restore order. So there was...
Then Sting would have gotten all the way on the top of the rafters and then jumped off and died.
Yeah. So none of that. There was no collar and elbow tie-up, which means we're 2 for 4. And then I have coined a new phrase. It is any time, and WWE is the most guilty of this, but AEW has been known to do it as well. Anytime we mention Latino heat, I am now going to affectionately call Edsturbation. Because that is what they do in every match that involves Rey Mysterio and Dominic. This was no exception.
Well, Sean, you got a Latino heat your hands up first before you start that
apparently, all that lotion that's in his hair, put it together. But there was still, and then and then of course we get the chant that we hear at every single pay-per-view ever. We want tables. We want tables. Don't worry, you'll get them. Don't worry, you'll get them. More Edsturbation. And then there was, I forget who it was. I think it had to have been, I think it was Damian Priest onto Ray. Hits just a clothesline that turns him inside out.
Yeah, I do remember that was a pretty vicious clothesline.
Yep. I do have to say that while Rhea's involvement was limited, her electric chair on the Dominic was amazing.
Yeah, it was. I loved it.
And I love that they're letting Ripley kind of tangle it up with the guys a little bit. Because she's got the stature for it. She's got the demeanor for it, and she's got the ability for it.
I would pay money to see Rhea Ripley beat the shit out of Dominic.
They might. Because there's...
I'm not going to lie. I'm so over Dominic Mysterio.
He needs more time. Haircut. He needs more time. Or he's just not going to get it. But he's only, 24, 25? Skylar, stat me here.
25.
Give him time.
Tell me how old he is.
Give him some time. I mean, he's still green, and he also got pushed to the main roster stupid early. So, give him some time to cultivate. It's not necessarily
they had to become the first ever father-son tag team champions.
Get rid of the damn mullet.
I agree with that. The mullet looks silly.
Awful. It's awful.
Then we get back into sports entertainment town. Let's just have some random stairs where there really wouldn't be any reason to have stairs set up. So we could set them on fire for Edge to come out and come down to the ring and do a couple spears to finish the match.
The
He
Brood
looked
entrance
cool.
will never not be awesome.
He
Except
looked super
it wasn't the Brood music.
edgy.
It wasn't the Brood music, though. It was a revamp of the Brood music, which was fine. It was fine. But Edge comes back and he does the spears, and then Ray wins with a headbutt West Coast pop because he didn't get the leverage well enough.
Yeah.
But Edge coming back was kind of cool. It was a very tame no DQ match, which honestly I'm cool with considering what they were having later on in the night.
Yeah.
It's like this wasn't going to set
honestly. This whole thing felt like Triple H was going, okay, this whole thing kind of sucks, so I'm going to do my best with it and just try to get it. I'm going to try to limp this to the finish line before I just execute this stable. It felt like Triple H was literally working with shit, trying to get something out of it.
Yeah. And your thoughts, Sky?
It's kind of cool seeing Rey Mysterio and Edge be friends, basically, which is a little weird. But, I mean, hey, it's a tie back to a time when wrestling was awesome.
Yeah. Throwback to the...
I'll take Edge and Rey as a tag team again over Rey and Dominic.
Agreed.
Nah, Edge is going to be doing stuff with Judgment Day, and Rey and Dom tried to win the tag team titles, and it didn't work.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Well...
Because, yay, more tag team rematches.
Well, they need to start making more tag teams.
Fixing the women's division. Now, please fix the tag team division, please.
Well, he's working
now, hold on. I want to make a very key point. The first 4 matches was the Raw commentary team. The last 4 matches were the SmackDown commentary team. But it was basically Michael Cole and Corey Graves. Michael Cole, I'm sorry. I want to apologize.
I also would like to apologize. Michael Cole, it's amazing how good you can sound when you don't have a 77-year-old doofus in your ear the entire night.
When you don't have to look down and look at your lines and say the lines that you're supposed to say because they're on the sheet of paper that you're reading, that makes a lot of difference.
Not even necessarily that. He had personality.
Yes.
Especially in this next match in the main event.
Yeah.
But Michael Cole has personality. He's not monotone Cole.
And I will say... Yeah, remember when we oh god, I forget what the match was, but it was Becky Lynch versus somebody, and it was the main event of the night, and Becky won, and the camera showed Michael Cole look at his notes and go, Becky's probably saying, looks notes, I'm still the man around here. And it was the worst, but it was the funniest. That was not the Michael Cole we saw tonight. This Michael Cole reminded me of old school Michael Cole. This is somebody who likes what he does. And then there's Corey Graves.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You remember the quote that happened in this match, right?
Which one? I think there's a few of them.
Well, the big one. Corey Graves. Damn it, Michael. I liked it better when you didn't have an opinion. Michael Cole. Well, that's changed. Things are changing around here.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that. Well... For those of you who want to know what match we're talking about, it's Pat McAfee versus Baron or Happy Corbin.
Bum-ass Corbin.
Bum-ass Corbin
yes,
in the battle.
Corbin.
In the battle of we used to be friends and now we're not friends because you're not my friend.
This was the least interesting Pat McAfee match that didn't involve Vince McMahon.
Well, but I will say this. The package they built... Fun. The package they built was all right. I like the idea that they're bringing some history back to talk about these two. You know, they've set it up, athletically. I don't know how much I like Pat McAfee's Tron of just a billion him.
Hold on. Can we talk about the troll job that Pat McAfee did?
Yes. Oh, when Happy's coming to the ring?
Yep, and an entire male choir is in the stands above God saying, bum-ass Corbin.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, there was... Funny. And this was the thing, is that I thought Happy Corbin, presentation-wise, I've said it, while the gimmick is garbage, he himself is not as bad as people give him credit for. But he has been a victim of garbage gimmicks. But the fact that he was there, he was more focused, he wasn't doing crappy jokes that were written for him and over-animated laughing. This kind of a little more toned down Corbin I could handle this guy.
By the way, I will give another credit to another fan in the audience. When Baron Corbin is standing and getting trolled by the choir, you see a guy with Joker makeup on. I thought that was really damn good Joker makeup.
Yeah, Joshua, what were you doing there? Why didn't you tell us you were there?
I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, because you were. It was you. You were there. That's why you didn't notice. It was you. It was. Come clean, man. Tell us about it.
Did the clown have a Monster Energy in his hand that wasn't spiked by Michael Corleone?
It could have. All you have are negative thoughts. So, you know. Anyway,
yeah, that is true.
But,
my life is a fucking comedy.
But in any case, Patrick got that weird Tron, but this match starts out, you know, kind of hot. We don't get a collar and elbow tie-up, but not necessary because this is more of a grudge match than anything else. Pat's punches look great, as they do. You know, another guy who's a quote-unquote celebrity match who shit looks better than half the wrestlers.
Yep.
Even though I don't like Pat McAfee's gear.
Yeah, I know. I didn't really care for that because it kind of feels like it's just his podcast wear. And I'm like, I don't know. I agree with you, Sky. I'm not saying they need to see him in a singlet or anything like that, but like just coming up in like basically what he wears just to record his podcast on a weekly basis or a daily basis. I don't know if that does it for me either.
Have him come out in jeans.
I mean, he basically did. With his not wife beater because it's a black shirt, tank top, and his chain. And
I mean, it was the shorts that killed me. It was like, what's with the shorts? They basically were jorts.
Yeah, and you know, we already saw that with John Cena. And considering how much I've critiqued Kevin Owens for shorts, I mean, I might as well be as across the board with it, because I think that also kind of took a little bit away from it for me. But here's something I also noticed, and this was just in this matchup. It wasn't exclusive to this matchup, though. WWE formatting, the bad formatting of matches. There is far too much shooting an opponent into the corner, turning your back on them, and walking away.
I noticed that too, and I knew you were going to say something about it. The second it happened.
It's Corbin did it a couple times in this match, but it wasn't just Corbin. This happened throughout the show, and it was the most noticeable. Yes, yeah, and it bothered me here, and I had to write it down on this part because it happened a few times, and it's just you wouldn't do that in a real fight. You wouldn't just turn around and walk away for like a good 4 or 5 seconds and then turn back around and expect them to be in the same spot, waiting for you to just go up and do whatever you're going to do. But then Corbin redeemed himself because after the Deep Six, that was the most picture-perfect pinfall cover I've ever seen in my life. Tuck the arm, hook the leg, body press over the chest. Oh, mwah, chef kiss.
Well, you don't like it when they lean back to chest?
Yeah.
And just grab only a leg?
Yeah. Let me just...
the Dolph Ziggler special of, I'm going to do a move and lay on them.
Yeah, let me rest my head on your navel like it's Steve Carell in Dan in Real Life with a stack of pancakes. And
Jesus.
Oh God, that's a real.
And then hook
that is
one
a
leg.
Decapitation. That is such a deep cut.
And then hook one leg, and then be like, I've got him pinned, even though I'm barely putting any pressure on the places I need to in order for him to actually be pinned.
Right. Yeah. If it wasn't the pinning combination, it was Corbin getting real mad at Charles Robinson after that picture-perfect pin. Like, did you see that picture-perfect pin? That should have been a 3.
Yeah, and Charles Robinson was also quite, it's Charles Robinson. I did really like...
not backing down, saying, you will get out of my face, okay, man?
That's right. And I did really like, after that Deep Six, when Corbin goes to do that, like, leave the ring, come back into the ring clothesline, and Pat cut him off at the pass, knowing that that's exactly what he was going to do. You don't see that enough with that maneuver, if you can call it that.
I'm not going to lie. I think that Corbin stopped doing that ring around the ring clothesline thing, and I was like, yay. That move is just too much. There's too much that goes into it. Like, I'm going to leave the ring, keep momentum, get back in the ring, and then clothesline the shit out of someone. Just turn around and clothesline them. Bounce off the ropes. That's what the ropes are there for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily hate the spot.
I'm not super crazy about the running around the ring clothesline.
I hear you.
By the way, can we just appreciate Baron Corbin's trolling? So he puts Pat McAfee on the announce table, starts beating him up, and then he starts yelling at Michael Cole. He puts on a pair of headphones and does commentary as he's beating up Pat McAfee.
Yeah,
and then Michael Cole,
that.
He pushes Michael Cole, and Michael Cole has the stones to top back to him.
Yeah, I loved this. Michael Cole, as Vince's robot, wouldn't have done that. He would have sat that and looked at his notes and said, "Hey, stop." And no, this felt a little more realistic. Not completely, but a little more realistic.
It's weird seeing Michael Cole not be a weenie.
Yeah. He had some fire in him. Yeehaw! Big time Bex. And it was it was really nice to see Cole have some balls.
But were they tiny like The Miz? Because we know that he had an affair with The Miz at one point.
That's actually quite likely. But again, I loved that there's so much more adherence to rules in this show. Again, this match had rules that we weren't just going, no, we don't really care about them. And then...
Right. Pat McAfee does the jump up to the top rope and kind of slips.
A little bit.
That made me squirm when he was struggling on top rope. I was like, oh, God, please save it. Please save the spot. Okay, good.
Which he did.
But that superplex was picture perfect, and he didn't cover him right away. He sold for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, which was nice. Which was definitely nice. You know, they kind of get back up, and then Corbin ends up back on the outside, and we get the Swanton Bambina.
And Corey was like, what the fuck you just say? And Michael Cole says, the Swanton Bambino.
Gabagool.
It's Pat McAfee, and specifically a Pittsburgh Yangzer thing. You wouldn't understand.
I know. I also loved when, just kind of going back to the beginning, when they're both staring at each other at the beginning, and then Pat McAfee does, like, just to the crowd, he just does that, like, Italian, like, gabagool. Look at it, just like to get the crowd into it. It was so funny.
I love Pat McAfee.
He's so good, man. He's got such a personality. He exudes a stupid amount of charisma. And then there's a Jeff Jarrett approved ref bump. And we finally get, and then of course one of the things that sold the matchup was that Corbin just hoofed Pat McAfee in the nads for no reason. So Pat McAfee's like, you know what? The ref's down. It's time to get a little payback. Hoofs Corbin in the nads.
And you could see it coming, but this is one of those times where you see it coming and you're waiting for it, and when it happens, you're like, yes, I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's deserved.
Yeah, so it was a vengeance low blow, even if it was a babyface, like, all right, I'll allow it, I understand.
And it wasn't like earlier in the no DQ tag match where you knew Edge was going to be there and you kind of rolled your eyes a little bit because you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
This is when it's proper.
Correct.
Okay, but here's the question. What was this finishing move? Was it a tequila and sunrise, or was it like a Canadian destroyer?
It was a tequila destroyer.
It was like a not so clean code red.
Yeah, it was an attempted code red that was good enough, I guess.
Yeah, it was like a code like macaroni and cheese color. And it was fine. It wasn't the cleanest, but it was still a really good match. And it had a good story and the right finish, because how are they going to put Corbin over Pat McAfee at this point?
And again,
I'm kind of notorious for my disdain and dislike of Baron Corbin. This was a good match. I will say this was not bad. This was not anywhere close to bad. I still wasn't super into it because, again, it's bum-ass Corbin, but it was still a good match.
But yeah, again, the whole thing, Pat McAfee and Michael Cole, they got a friendship, and Michael Cole is happy for him. Pat McAfee comes over. He goes to shake Corey Graves' hand. Doesn't. does a DX chop, then shakes Michael Cole's hand.
Now, here's my question to you.
Sense because Corey was talking crap about him the entire match.
Well, but here's my question to the two of you. We were hearing about, a month and a half ago, that there were rumors that Corey Graves was training to make a comeback. Do you think in any possible world they would pull the trigger on Pat McAfee versus Corey Graves? And would that match even be anywhere good?
Considering the fact that Corey Graves hasn't wrestled for 10 years and Pat McAfee is better than him, and you're relying on Pat McAfee to carry Corey Graves, that wouldn't be a very good match.
If Corey got back into ring shape and trained a lot, and they went back to this, I wouldn't hate it unless it was, bad.
Yeah,
a definite maybe.
Yeah, for sure. But this was solid all around, and then here comes the match that was my least favorite of the night.
Hold on. We get Big Daddy Drew.
I forgot about that because he has to talk about his number one contendership over at the castle.
I don't care who it is, Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns. I'm kicking their ass at Clash of the Castle.
I have a sword.
When I raise the sword, stuff magical happens.
There is a child in the front row. I'm gonna call him out in front of his family.
And in front of 50,000 people and millions of people around the world.
To be fair, Drew did have a lot more charisma than we're making it sound when he did this.
Yeah.
It was a good promo. It was a Drew promo. And this is all that Drew's been doing. He did beat Sheamus, but this is what we've seen a lot of main...
Had a 30-minute crazy match on SmackDown, and I kind of want to go back and watch it.
Drew and Sheamus have always had good matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of people who have wrestled each other a bajillion times...
Oh, God.
It is the Street Profits versus the Usos.
Shitty and poopy. No, Sean. Shitty and poopy. That's what they are.
Yeah. The faster we get through this, the less I'll have explosive diarrhea.
The most over person in this match is Jeff Jarrett.
Yes! And I love Jeff Jarrett.
Indeed.
And
Correct.
I will always love Jeff Jarrett. Although I wish that Triple H could have just made a quick call to Anthem. Or quick call and been like, hey, listen, we really need My World for SummerSlam. We will give you $50,000 of Monopoly money, which I know you'll put to good use if you let us use My World.
We will construct an Impact Monopoly set.
We will let AJ Styles do a non-appearance video package for you if you just let us use My World. Because it would have made such a difference in the way that the crowd responded to him.
Do we have to waste the Tennessee Titans cheerleaders on the Street Profits entrance?
Yeah, sadly.
I got bored when that happened.
I was bored when the screen was like, oh yeah, this is the next match. I'm like, all right, pass. But I couldn't pass because I love Jeff Jarrett too much.
Yeah.
And this was
the best thing in this match was Jeff Jarrett ripping them off of each other when they got tangled up in the ropes. Jeff,
hold on, you have to ask the question. Was there a collar and elbow tie-up?
I didn't care for this match. Did we get one?
I don't know. Did we get one?
I don't know.
To answer your question, yes, we did.
Oh, good for them. Good for them. Then that would have been the highlight of the match.
This is the one thing where Triple H taking over kind of concerns me. Because I actually saw this, so I have a little bit of Raw news. Montez Ford had a singles match on Raw because it looks like they're going to start pushing him as a single star, and that makes me very sad.
Well, maybe they can get something more out of him than what is currently been in him. I put nothing against Triple H. Good luck, Triple H. Make me care about him.
Have him stop being so goofy.
Josh,
and his eyes bugging out like planets.
You keep interrupting me, and I need you to stop, man. I'm kidding.
I was waiting for you to say something to interrupt you again.
But no, I think Angelo Dawkins' career is about to die.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. But here's the thing. The best part about this was just how on top of the officiating Jeff Jarrett was. And that's what the commentators sold. They didn't even really talk that much about the match. They're like, man, Jarrett's doing a good job refereeing, isn't he? Yeah, Jeff Jarrett's a really good ref. And that was it. And I love that that Jeff Jarrett has got more over than any of the boys here. All right, I've got another controversial statement. I'm over the Usos.
Same.
I'm over them. They are the most egregious backslap taggers in the business.
Yeah, that is true.
They do it more than any other team, and I've tried while watching them. I've tried to just let it go and just see how the matches are, but none of their matches are structured well enough for me to ignore it. It's the same match we see every single time. It's mostly moves. It's mostly the same sequences. It was nice hearing the names Umaga, Rikishi, and Jesse Ventura mentioned on WWE TV. But other than that, they don't interest me anymore. They're better as Roman Reigns' flunkies than they are as an actual tag team at this point.
The Usos wrestle Young Bucks style.
With a little, although it looks cleaner and they actually have more of a physical stature to make it a little more viable. But I agree.
But that's
this
kind of a
match honestly was a not as good version of the same match that they had in Money in the Bank, and even that match went 23 minutes.
Yeah, and then
at least this one was short.
Yeah,
that is true. Unmemorable.
I did like the back suplex into the neck breaker. That was a nice little spot. And then the Usos get in the ring, and I swear to God, I had never seen or thought that people could do this. These guys have been wrestling in WWE's main roster for almost 10 years now. Or actually 10 years. And they
debuted in 2010, so it's 12.
God. They take whichever one of them, whichever prophet. I don't remember which one it was. And they both grab his head, and instead of just Irish whipping him together, they do a double head palm shoot off of the guy, and the guy just runs like, well, there's both hands on my head now. I guess that means run.
I can sense the veins in your forehead thickening as you're describing.
No, it's just like for a team that's supposed to be hyped up as one of the greatest of all time, I just don't see it. I'm over it. They've had some good matches, but they're kind of getting Ballard for me. Where there's a couple good matches of theirs I remember, but for the most part, I don't see it. I don't see it. I miss main event Jey Uso.
Over tag team wrestling in WWE in general at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is that the worst matches on this show were the tag team matches.
And did you notice that the crowd cared probably for this match the least because they have seen it a billion times. They're so sick of this matchup.
8 trillion times.
Yeah. And then they just...
But who else are they going to wrestle? The tag team division has what? The New Day, who are doing jobs for the new Vicious Viking Raiders.
Yep.
And yes, that's actually their name.
Yep. It is.
Just kill and revamp the entire tag team division. Though I know. They'll wrestle Ray and Dominic again.
They did on Raw.
But they'll do it again.
But I will say, though, the crowd was tired, but they did pop for Montez's stupidly oversold frog splash where he literally does like a Shawn Michaels Hulk Hogan SummerSlam 05 flip every time that he does it. Every single time that he does it. Does not matter. We'll do it the same way. Although I did like the fact that when the Uso, whichever one it was, kicked out, that Montez Ford actually cussed out Jarrett a little bit. There was a little fire in Montez Ford that wasn't too overly exaggerated. He was pissed. He was frustrated. I'm like, yes, do that. Not all of the other Kenny Omega lookalike stuff that you're doing.
Well, that's part of a possible heel turn that they're planning.
Yeah, I'm like, get mad. Like, you show me anger. You show me animosity, I will accept that. But right as you stand right now, I don't want any of that. So then the Usos do a finish. I don't even remember what it was.
A 1D.
Right.
1D, because the frog splashes didn't win them the match.
Right. And they do the pin. I didn't
remember the Dudley boys? They were fun.
Yeah, I missed them. And the last thing I wrote down on this was I didn't care. Give me more Jeff Jarrett and less of both these teams. Actually, none. Give me none.
I didn't hate this as much as you did, Sean. I was just like, there's some matches where it's just happening, and you're just like, okay, and then it ends, and you're like, well, that was a thing that happened, and then you move on with your day. That's honestly how I felt.
Well, speaking of things that just happened, here comes Riddle to the ring to cut a promo saying, I don't have a match tonight. I was supposed to wrestle Rollins, but I don't care if I have a match. I want to fight him right now. And then here comes Seth Rollins in his best Burning Man attire.
Hold up. We have gone so far ahead, we have skipped a very vital part of this show.
Oh, no.
What, the Kid Rock thing?
But before we get to that, this to me was where I thought the show took a turn for the better. Both in style and intensity. From this point out, I felt more animosity on the show than in any part of it previously. And this is where this kind of became a tale of two shows. Like the first 60% of the show, which is what we just saw, and then the next level, where it's like, okay, now we're into main event style time. You know, this is a step above what you've already seen. Not to diminish anything that's come before this, but now we're getting into the stuff you really are interested in. This is where the intensity and quality of the show really improved, and then Kid Rock fucked his fatty. He actually just made out sloppily with her, but yeah.
And then flipped off the camera Fred Durst style, which I thought was funny.
And then Riddle came out where you couldn't see it. He just kind of like showed up. It was a little like, hey, what's going on here? I liked that. It changed the way that you looked at it. This didn't feel like it was something that was supposed to happen, even though we all know it was. But like, Do you
remember that one NXT takeover where Seth Rollins did this exact same thing when it was the lead up to the match with Triple H at WrestleMania?
I do.
And I thought this was like a subtle little homage to that, and I loved it.
Yeah, and Seth
Rollins wearing his best Burning Man attire.
Seth Rollins coming out like Lloyd Christmas in Dumb and Dumber.
He looked like Burning Man met Lloyd Christmas met Raphael from Soul Calibur.
That is a deep cut I appreciate. And deep cut because he has a sword.
Yeah, that was just so strange. But I loved the intensity of this. Even Riddle felt more intense. Felt more aggressive.
Pissed.
Yeah. And I like that. I'm like, yes, give me this presentation.
Give him his first name back. Give him his first name back and make him more angry. Angry MMA guy.
Yeah. No more Scooter. Please, for the love of God, get rid of the Scooter.
Birds flying out of his toes.
Yeah.
Although they replaced his theme song with something that was even worse.
Oh, the theme song's terrible. I hate his new theme song. It is bad. But I love the way that the commentary picked up big time from this point on the show. Because Cole sold this. Like, somebody get out here and like tend to him. The only thing that was really silly about this was all the agents coming out with Seth Rollins. And Rollins, who is gesticulating less, not entirely not, but a little bit less, they're getting urged, and then literally almost in unison, Seth Rollins starts to run, and then everybody turns and all starts to run at the same time to chase him down.
And I sent the chat a meme of them chasing the meme of them chasing what's his name?
Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins was chasing Forrest Gump.
Yes. Yeah, because they all started running down.
That was a quality meme right there, them chasing Forrest Gump.
But they do the curb stomp, again, and then now, they're tending to Riddle, and they kind of sell the gravitas of the moment, and then they move on from this. But I think this did better than a match would have in selling this feud.
Agreed. Although one little thing that I didn't really care for is everyone saying, no, don't do that, waiting for Seth to hit the curb stomp, and
I know.
then they enter the ring to try to stop him.
Sports entertainment.
That was kind of silly.
Yeah. But
and the only thing that was missing was Adam Pearce going, we need to get
we
Riddle
need some medical. Get us some medical.
Get us some medical for Riddle.
And then Van Dam comes out and promos his papers. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, we should.
We're in our co-main event. Liv Morgan defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Ronda Rousey, and I'm going to go last in my opinion of this match. Skylar, why don't you go first?
So, insider information. Because the Miz and Logan Paul match went too long, this match had a lot of time cut out. I don't know exactly what that means, but my understanding is that it probably was at least 5 minutes. So this would have been a 10-minute match instead of the 5-minute match that we got. Having said that...
Thank God we didn't get a 10-minute match.
Because you can't do a prolonged, drag-out beatdown with people like Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey. It worked for John Cena and Brock Lesnar because they're John Cena and Brock Lesnar. It would not have worked doing a prolonged beatdown that Morgan and Ronda would have been in. This was the right match, the right finish, and the right angle done afterwards to really put people in the proper positions.
JoshAgeddon?
I agree with that, but it's very hard for me to look forward to anything that came out of this or enjoy anything that I saw because I can't stand either of these two people. Because Ronda is Ronda and Liv is Liv, and I despise both of them. But this was honestly best case scenario. This was Triple H taking chicken shit and turning it into chicken salad.
Okay. Those of you who have been long-standing listeners of this podcast will know my opinions of Ronda Rousey.
Whatever do you mean?
And, well, there was an episode many moons ago that I just kind of pieced together from me ranting in the car where I did a pretty scathing burial of Ronda Rousey because of the way that she is disrespectful towards this business and the things that she says in the media regarding the business and how she views it and how people have viewed her and how she views it, especially with how crappily she looked when she came back at the Rumble. You know, I kind of swore off I didn't watch a WrestleMania match, no matter how good or bad it was, because I just straight up refused, because I was reaching the point of being the Cornette Russo thing and starting to get my life in order so I could piss on her grave. We all up to speed on that?
Yes.
That being said, I have no idea how, and I'm still kind of baffled by it, but Triple H has made me look at this as the best single piece of business on the entirety of SummerSlam. This was perfect for everyone involved. This reset Ronda Rousey into what she was always supposed to be presented as, or how she was going to be presented as. This put Liv Morgan in a position where, inexplicably, people like Liv Morgan. I don't understand it. I don't see what the big deal is. She does that.
Baffles me well.
She's always done that. It's always been my dream to be here. Look at my tears as makeup. Fine. She does her in-ring work has never been that good. She was the best worker of the two-woman team of the Riot Squad. Think about who that includes. You know. But at the same but for some reason, I can't put my finger on it, people like her. And I'm not going to knock that because I saw it in person. I saw the reactions that she got. I'm not going to knock that. What they did here with this 5 minutes put Liv in a position to be really cheered, but also exposed for what she is, which allows her to go into a lot of other directions with what her gimmick is and might be, and what maybe she feels she's capable or incapable of at this point. It turned Ronda Rousey into the MMA badass who views most wrestlers as beneath her, which I think she genuinely does. It puts her in that position, which is a tremendous position to be in. Then this match went so short that they got the key parts in to where both women looked better for it when they came out. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I have to tip my cat off to both. I love my cat, but I have to tip off my cat to both Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan and Triple H for putting this together. I was stunned. But in a
hell hath indeed frozeneth over.
It is. Does that mean I like Ronda Rousey as a person any more than I do before? No. But this might be a Logan Paul kind of situation. You present her right, I might be more invested in what she does. This was a good start.
Well, it helps that she's in the alignment now that is natural. Ronda Rousey, when she was in MMA, was a heel. She was never the babyface because she was the cocky, arrogant champion.
Right.
But she was good at what she was doing, so you couldn't say shit to her until she finally got knocked off her perch.
Correct. Which is what sold all the money.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that you pay to watch Ronda Rousey lose because she's a heel. You want to see her lose. And she never should have been the smiling babyface that Vince McMahon always goes for.
And that's the thing I noticed immediately. That's how I knew things were different. Because she comes down to the ring, she's got a smirk on her face, but she is not smiling. She's like, game time. I'm confident. I'm very overly confident. That's why the smirk. But I'm not going to be going into this like, oh my God, OMG, I'm like so happy to be here. I wear a kilt, la-di-da.
Well, that was Liv Morgan. That's what she was doing.
Queen's wave.
Yeah, but that was...
Well, no, that was what Liv Morgan was doing.
Yeah, that was both of what they were doing at a time. That was both of their gimmicks. Now it's just Liv Morgan's, which is, say what you want about that, but people are responding to it for whatever godforsaken reason. But
you've yet to ask the most important question. Did the match start with a collar and elbow tie-up?
I don't remember.
Yes, it did.
I believe so, yes. But it was short-lived because Ronda Rousey really took control of this match pretty much from the off. And that was
short-lived.
And that was the best part of this. Shut the fuck up. That was the best part of this. because what made this so good was that from a fight standpoint, Liv Morgan is not in Ronda Rousey's league of fighting. Right? And Ronda Rousey treated it as such. That you are not in my league of fighting. And the match went as such, as you're not in my league of fighting, but you're tough as nails because you're still kicking out and fighting through all of the barragement I'm giving you. So you might be small and you might not be in my league of fighting, but you're resilient AF. And I respect that.
On that note, I do have a bit of a criticism. Throughout Ronda Rousey's career in WWE, she has never had someone in that armbar very long before that person was tapping out like a mad woman. She put Liv in this armbar multiple times, and Liv was just taking it and not tapping out. Liv, who is small, bigger, stronger, more competent women have been put into that armbar and have tapped out faster. So when Liv was just sitting there in the armbar not tapping, I was like, bullshit. Bullshit.
Well, that was also one of the things where, like, Liv Morgan, you could argue that she has a spirit, she's a fighter, she's an underdog, she's never going to back down, and she's going to try and endure the pain until the end.
Bullshit, I say.
I think both of those points are valid. I genuinely think both of those points are valid because, again, it kind of sold the idea that she is a tough cookie. And, yeah, she's going up against somebody who, even in her own mind, she knows she's not in Ronda Rousey's league, but she's going to hang in there as hard as she can. She is not going to quit unless she absolutely has to.
Although I did just say that,
like, this is not a 100% Ronda Rousey beatdown because Liv Morgan did get offense in. It was just that Ronda's was more stiff because she's sloppy and green.
True.
Yeah. And even though I did have that criticism, I will say one thing that kind of makes it better. It never looked like Ronda got that armbar in as much as she wanted, like in the correct position that she wanted to.
Yeah.
She tried, but she didn't get it exactly right until the finish. So I can kind of forgive it a little bit, even though it is stretching it a little bit.
Yeah, and then let's get right into it. This finish was brilliant.
I loved it.
This finish was absolutely brilliant. So Ronda gets her into the third armbar, and Liv is just trying. She starts to stand up a little bit, even though her arm's wrenched. Ronda Rousey's shoulders hit the mat. The referee's looking at the shoulders at the count of 2 as she's looking at Ronda's shoulders. I don't know whether you two saw this. Liv taps out on Ronda's foot.
Oh, yeah.
But the ref doesn't see it because he sees the pin, and the pinfall comes down, and the winner is Liv Morgan, and Ronda is understandably pissed, and then starts armbarring referees.
Yes.
Well, she armbars Liv Morgan again. The referee's like, hey, you can't do that. And Ronda's like, I'm Ronda fucking Rousey. I can do whatever I want. In fact, I'm going to armbar you.
And that was great. I think that her finally snapping and being like, you know what, I don't care. I know that I'm better than anybody here. That is what I've wanted from Ronda Rousey from the start. It was just the simple stuff. It's like they brought it back down. I know that we always laugh because WWE has been so dumbed down over the years, but this was simple and logical and realistic for what the person is, and that's all I wanted out of Ronda Rousey. And it gives Liv something where she's not really going to lose momentum because of this. Ronda Rousey now, I believe, gains a ton after having go-away heat for the past 6 months. I think people are at least a little bit more interested in what's going to happen with her now. It was perfect for both of them. You couldn't have done this better. And I'm amazed I'm saying that.
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed that you are so high on this match, Sean. Imagine you ranting in your car, someone saying, hey, in a couple of years you're going to give Ronda Rousey a compliment on her match.
Well, let's be clear. It's for the bare minimum.
That is true.
But that's all they needed. So that's one of my biggest critiques with wrestling nowadays is everything has to be so long and drawn out. Sometimes bare minimum is exactly what you need. 5-minute match.
Don't you have an album called Bare Men?
Yeah, I sure do. And I'm not going into the plug today because it's a pay-per-view review, but links in the description. Go listen to my music. But in any case, I'm shocked, given the people involved, that this would be the best piece of business as far as helping both people progress on the night. If you told me that just not even 2 months ago, I would have laughed in my own face. But the night was not over.
Oh. No, because Kane has to appear and tell the audience that there were 10,000 people more than there actually were.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kane doing what any good politician does. Lie.
And I had so much fun on Twitter with people getting upset about Kane being there. It was so funny.
Not that it matters.
By the way, he just won re-election for Knox County.
He was the hometown hero. Who gives a crap? Like, fine. Hey, Kane. See you, Kane.
People whining on Twitter made me so happy.
Oh, grow up. It's harmless. What's it gonna do?
Twitter.
It's like, get a life. Anyway.
He doesn't align with my political views. Fuck him.
Yeah, it's like, give it a rest. Like, just let the guy just do his little pyro and leave. Like, what harm is he causing? None. Unless the fire literally, like, sparks a child's blouse on fire in the front row. Nothing's gonna happen. Just leave it alone. Thanks. But this main event was something that remember when I said that Triple H was talking to various fans at the start? This to me was the Attitude Era fans going, you're gonna see some crazier shit than you've seen in the past 20 years now. And this is going to be a good demonstration of that. It's Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in the Last Man Standing match.
This match was batshit fucking insane, and I cannot remember the last time I saw a WWE show where I didn't want the match to end.
One of the things that you have to understand is that this was not a wrestling match, and you have to accept that at the beginning. Because Jim Cornette can't, because he has to keep it in a wrestling match. And that's the one thing I'm going to criticize Jim Cornette.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, as a wrestling match, it wasn't very good. But as a spectacle, it was tremendous.
Well, here's the word for it. This was a fight. This
Yes.
was very specifically a fight, and you have to go in with that feeling that it's a fight.
And I will say, too, kind of to the previous points we've made on this podcast already, not to be repetitive, but they did different shit. This was not the Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns match we've seen 428 bajillion times.
Remember how boring and just bland and blasé their WrestleMania match was this year?
Yeah.
I was about to say, which WrestleMania match?
Yeah. No, this
true,
one.
Also true.
Yeah. But in particular, this one this year, because we were all like, oh, this should be good. The roles are reversed. And then they had the exact same match. This was not the exact same match. This was
my favorite thing on the show. This was my favorite thing.
It's almost like they had to go back and say, we need to fix it. We have to make a course correction for what happened at Mania. So Roman Reigns and the Usos make their entrance. They all have their belts, and not one of those 6 belts looks good.
Get better belts, Triple H.
Or should I? Velcro sucks.
Yeah.
Agreed. I've always said that. I'll still say
I'm hoping that with Triple H in charge now, or with Stephanie and Nick Khan, that they merge all the belts that they've unified and come up with some interesting, cool-looking designs.
Please.
Please, for the love of God. I'm sick of just giant W's.
Yeah. No, well, because they did it for branding, but they really could just use some uniqueness beyond what they already have, which it looks like Triple H is going to try and promote.
Please do, Triple H. I'm not asking you to bring back the big gold belt, which would be great. Just make a cool design with the W in the middle of the cool design.
Or if you can't make a cool design, just bring back the big gold belt like Ric Flair did for the last match.
Or, how about the Undisputed Championship?
Yes, bring that back.
Bring that
belt back.
To me, that is the pinnacle championship belt that WWE ever made. I'm sad it only got a 3-year run. Because it was...
Actually, an amendment to that. Bring it back, except a little bit bigger.
Yes, because the first one was a little bit small, but...
It's a little small. Make it a little bit bigger.
But in any case, this was just buck wild. I mean, where do we even start talking about this match?
Well, hold on. We haven't finished the entrances yet, because Roman does his entrance, does a little thing where he says, "Acknowledge me, Nashville." Then Brock Lesnar comes out with a tractor. And Josh, again, I'm going to put you on blast. Because you said, this looks silly and stupid.
It did, and then the match started.
I mean, to be fair, it is silly and stupid. But it's WWE, but it's badass silly and stupid. And if you're going to do a silly and stupid, make it badass.
I mean, come on, the visual of Brock Lesnar...
I didn't like it at first, but the second the match started, my tune quickly changed.
I mean, my tune changed when... I mean, come on. Brock Lesnar introducing himself on top of the thing. Brock Lesnar!
Yeah.
And then throwing his mic at Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns just catches it.
Yeah, no, that was great. And now, as somebody who drives tractors on the reg, I drove one today, actually, because that's just part of my job. Anything that involves tractors, I'm going to be a fan of. This was a big tractor. This was not just your average everyday load a yard of topsoil into somebody's truck tractor. This was a heifer of a tractor. And
it had Brock Lesnar's shit on it. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, I loved that.
And the Brock logo was on there.
And when Brock jumped and just tackled Roman Reigns from the bed of the tractor, that was like, oh, it's on.
He didn't tackle him. He did a Luthez press.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. He did do a Luthez press. And then they just start going after it. And it's intense, but they take time to sell.
We should say that because of that Luthez press, it's 4 for 8 on the night with collar and elbow taps, so 50%.
Not bad for WWE. Could be better.
Some of the ones where they didn't have collar and elbow taps made sense, like this match.
I mean, the Luthez press.
Right? Yeah, obviously that was way better way to start.
That was so crazy.
Yeah, no, that was insane.
It gave me. Do you remember the stretcher match between Big Show and Brock Lesnar back in 2003 at Judgment Day when he came in with a forklift and like tackled Big Show off the forklift, and that was awesome.
Yes,
made me think of that.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And then they they brawl around and they do back and forth everywhere.
Oh yeah,
they set up some tables and now all the smarks come their pants. And Brock is about to put Roman through a table, but Roman ends up countering into a Samoan drop into the table. And that got a big pop. And I believe there was another table set up that they also went through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did a Uragi.
Yes.
He gave Brock a manhandle slam.
Yeah.
Back bottom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in Roman's case, it's a rock bottom because he's related to The Rock. So,
well, he did it to Brock, so it was a Brock bottom.
Yeah, well, no, because Brock Lesnar's done a Brock bottom onto The Rock at SummerSlam 20 years ago.
Doing it to Brock, so maybe Roman was stealing Brock's move, the Brock bottom.
There you go. And somewhere Obama is like, I feel a disturbance in the force. Because we've said it so many times. But in any case, this just keeps going, and then Roman Reigns decides, or I'm sorry, Brock Lesnar decides it's time to play with this tractor a little bit. But he has a little trouble.
Yeah.
He couldn't.
Although, real quick. When Brock beamed Roman Reigns with half the table and then just slammed him on that table to where Roman hurt his elbow, that was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brock was like, fuck you, I'm
Unfortunately,
going to
I have been told that I have gone over time, so I have to go. Bye.
Oh, Skylar.
Skylar, we'll miss you. We'll see you next week.
Made it.
See me next week.
You're leaving Sean alone with this man.
That's okay. I know how to handle myself.
Just know that the ring apron lift up is the most amazing spot ever, and Josh, again, go fuck yourself.
What's your rating?
I will.
What's your rating?
8 out of 10 for the show.
8 out of 10. All right, Sky. Well, thank you for departing. Please take your spaceship, and we will see you next week when you descend back to Earth.
We love you.
Now, now that Skylar has been abducted by the powers that be, and I'm hopefully not talking Vince Russo here.
Oh, God. That's Mr. Wrestling 3, thank you very much.
Oh, yes, excuse me. Excuse me. Well, in any case, so they continue going on, and then now Brock beats down Roman a little bit more and decides now it's time to just take things to another level. He throws Roman into the ring, he gets the tractor, and gets underneath the ring and lifts the ring easily like 15, 16 feet in the air.
And Roman just tumbles out of the ring.
Yes.
That was so absurd and insane, and I loved it.
Now, I do also want to mention, though, that prior to this, there was a little bit more of a lackluster tractor spot where he took Roman into the tractor and, like, kind of casually dumped him, like, very lightly.
He did the Daniel Bryan Kane Extreme Rules 2014 where he had him in a forklift and he just kind of gently tossed Kane into the ring.
Yeah, it was just like, it was a lot softer.
First.
Yeah. And I will say this, as someone who drives tractors on the reg, Brock, you could have easily just jammed that lever down and had that thing just herky-jerk your way down on it. It would not have been difficult to do. I understand you don't want to, like, really hurt Roman Reigns, but you probably could have made it a little bit better so it looked like it did a little more damage. But you made up for it by lifting the whole fucking ring up.
Yes.
So... And
Michael Cole and Corey Graves' reaction, them just scattering like mice and Michael Cole screaming like a lunatic, that just added to it.
Yeah, no, they sold beautifully throughout this whole thing. I mean, the entire night they sold beautifully through it. And Brock comes down and, they keep trying to do things. Then here come the Usos. And Brock fends off.
They were more interesting getting suplexed on their heads, Big E, Ridge Holland style, than in their tag team title match.
Agreed. Totally agreed. And so then the Usos come in, but Brock beats him down. But then Roman, I believe, I think it was a spear, but everybody's down. And
I think, did he F5 Paul Heyman through the table?
Oh my God, yes. I forgot that happened first. Because Paul Heyman's like, no, stop. I need to live because of him. He's the reason I make money. You can't hurt him. Here, just have the belts. And Brock was very careful, but put Heyman through the table, and that got a huge pop. Actual comeuppance for Paul Heyman.
That was awesome.
And
it would not be the first time that Paul Heyman has been put through an announce table during a Brock Lesnar match at a SummerSlam.
That is true. But considering how old Paul is now,
it looks a little bit better than that flimsy rock bottom that the Rock gave him in 2002.
True.
Although we did need Taz calling him Happy Heyman.
Yeah, that did help. But
yeah.
Not to take anything away from Corey Graves or Michael Cole in this matchup, because I also think another part that made me like this more was the fact that Corey Graves was not nearly so much heel contrarian for this back half of this show. Like after Pat and Corbin,
he was more just what the fuck am I watching? Yeah,
he was a lot more reminiscent of NXT Corey Graves, I thought. So, which is honestly, that was when Corey Graves actually was like quite good on commentary.
You know, if this main event was a 3-man booth with Byron, they would have been arguing over how to use a tractor.
It would have been the worst,
and whether or not Byron can use a tractor.
It would have been the actual worst, and I
yes.
I'm glad that wasn't the case. I'm glad we just stuck with the 2-man booth on this.
Byron, you're a virgin who doesn't know what a tractor is. Corey, you're mean.
But I learned how to drive a tractor once, Corey, and I think Brock Lesnar doesn't want to hear your lessons.
I know what a tractor is.
A tractor is where they store your brain sacks, then that's why we find it in the compost. Yeah, it would have been the worst. Yeah. But speaking of things that might look the worst, here comes Austin Theory.
This poor guy.
And I mean, did we have to involve him? I know that was 3/4 of the storyline going into this matchup, but did we have to do this?
I will say, my favorite thing about this, and even though I threatened to murder Kevin Dunn earlier in the show, there was one part where he jerked the camera back that was perfect. When Austin Theory hit Roman Reigns in the head with the briefcase and the camera jerked back to where it looked like Roman got whiplash,
perfect.
That looked brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Sometimes Kevin Dunn doesn't suck balls.
Well, he's under new leadership, and having that in his ear definitely has to help.
And also, what you were talking about earlier, the replays in this match, what's it called? Not the split screen, the
picture in picture.
What's it called? Picture in picture. The picture in pictures in this match in particular were so clean, crisp, when something wasn't happening. And just fast, and even I noticed it without you even saying anything. I was like, wow, that was a really fast cut.
Yeah, no, they definitely made sure to get in and get out so that you didn't miss a lick of the action, because they knew it was going to be this intense. And so then Brock Lesnar F5's Austin Theory, and then he just, evaporates the way that Skylar just did.
Yeah.
And never to be seen from again on the show.
Well, he did just message the chat that he has some thoughts that he can text, so I told him to go ahead and send them, so continue.
All right, so we're going to get a run-in from Grammar Notes Sky.
What a perfect way to end it.
What a plot twist for this show.
He starts out with the old gimmick of singing horribly.
Yeah,
and ends it
goes through the whole podcast here and then leaves and then come back. He's a true Mick Foley performance here from Skylar Greenberg.
3 faces of Skylar Greenberg.
Right. That's right.
Music, jukebox, grammar notes, and Squidward.
Oh, amazing. Fantastic. So then, now we get kind of towards the finish of this match. Now, Roman Reigns hits him with 4 spears. I have 2 words for you, JoshAgeddon.
Mm-hmm.
Red undies.
Red underwear. When we were watching this match live, all 3 of us were watching this match live, I saw that on screen, and I looked down at my phone, and in big bold letters, red underwear. And I laughed so hard.
I noticed this 2 years ago, and
yes,
and it has not stopped. So apparently, that is his title defense underwear.
That is the only pair of underwear that Roman Reigns owns.
Well, when it comes to wrestling big matches, that's his big match undies. And
big match undies.
There you go. And that's what he has. And
it was a big match undie victory. That's why he's undefeated.
That's right.
His opponents get distracted by his underwear.
But he spears Brock Lesnar.
That's right.
he spears Brock, and the count gets to 9, and Brock somehow gets to his feet. He spears him again, and he almost gets to it. And then finally, they all gang up on him, and they all beat him.
Roman hits him with one of his 2 belts. He gets back up. Michael Cole's screaming, "Damn it, Chad, count faster!"
Yeah,
Roman hits him with the other belt. Michael Cole's losing his mind. Brock gets back up. Michael Cole's having an orgasm. It's great. It's insane.
In the most literal sense. But it's great. It's honestly wonderful selling of the match.
Usually when I'm watching wrestling and I'm laughing, it's not a good thing. I've never watched a match where it was so good and awesome and crazy that the longer it went, the more happy I got and the more I was laughing because I was having a fun time.
I know, which is so rare in WWE. It feels so weird in WWE, especially because it was a moderately, like a pretty good show up to that point too. So it wasn't like this is the only match on the card.
And then my only complaint, the match ended.
Yeah, because the Usos gang up and then they finally get him down and then they just bury him in rubble and chairs and all that, and the referee has no choice but to count to 10. And Roman Reigns retains, but you could tell he's worn out. He's beaten down, but there was a key little note here, because he takes the Universal Belt and says to Brock, "You're not welcome here." Wham! Hits him in the head. That's when they start to bury him, and that's the end of the match. It was tremendous.
Agreed.
I loved everything about this. It was definitely a show. It was definitely, but it had drama. It had intensity. It had hilarity, and it had just some wild stuff happening. Stuff where you couldn't look away.
It wasn't a wrestling match, but it was wrestling.
Yes. And to think that this show took place in the same year that Sami Zayn got pinned by a gigantic mousetrap.
That botched.
Yes. That's the same
year. The same year that Vince McMahon waddled, clotheslined Pat McAfee and pinned him.
And took the worst stunner in the history of history.
Remember what I said in my notes in the WrestleMania review when he took his shirt off? I wanted to gouge my eyeballs out. His skin was just so honestly, take a vacuum cleaner within a mile of him and his skin's coming off in one suck.
Yes, if he had run off of Titan Tower and flapped up his arm, he could have flown down to Stanford. But that was just the way that was. But this show was holistically different. What a wild ending with a tremendous matchup. I don't know whether we're going to see Brock again.
Honestly, if this was his swan song, what a way to go out.
Yeah, honestly, what a tremendous match. I don't know what the relationship is with him and Hunter. We'll have to see what's going on. I think Triple H has a new direction. He's not going to rely on people like Brock as much. But
who would have thought that we would be raving over at this point, after seeing it hundreds of times, that we'd be raving and praising a Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match?
Yeah.
Because remember, what was all of our reaction when this match was first announced?
Again?
Or
yeah. Boy, were we wrong about a lot of things on this show. And now we kind of get to the end, and I've got 2 questions. I've got the ratings, and then I've got the big question that I was going to ask before. So why don't we do...
Well, actually, real quick, let me read Skylar's note that he sent me.
Yes, please do. Is this more insider information?
Yes. Tell me about this insider information, Skylar.
You tell us.
Hashtag insider information. My throat hurts. I'm not doing that again. They practiced the ring lift several times in order to make it go correctly.
Fair.
Can you imagine Brock Lesnar just all right, take 2, rips the ring up again with the tractor?
Well, Brock Lesnar is probably the only exception to the rule that I would give that wrestlers do not know how to use basic tools.
He's the only one.
He's the only one I would say. No, he probably's got a good grasp of it.
So after that, Skylar says they worried it wasn't going to look good, but it did. Paul Heyman actually took an F5, even though Brock was as gentle as he could.
Yep.
Michael Cole's passion at the ending is what sold this match. His pleading with Brock to give up, him and Corey selling the damage Roman was doing, and Brock being a monster. Michael Cole at the top of his lungs. For the love of God, ref, count faster. And he closes with 8 out of 10 review. 8 out of 10 review. This show was refreshing in a way that reminds people of the days when Triple H again, proper grammar, was in charge of NXT. It was so nice to see, and I am glad for the turn. We must be cautious, however, because WWE must convert this into consecutive good shows from here on out. Either way, good stuff. Thank you, Baked H, and fuck you, Vince. General notes Skylar Greenberg out.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. So, JoshAgeddon, it's your turn. Your thoughts on the first pay-per-view of the Triple H era.
Before I get to that, I do have a teeny bit of a rant, because there's a thing I've been seeing from a few people. Like, for example, I think it was Gerald Briscoe on Twitter shooting his mouth off because a lot of, people were genuinely shocked but happy and celebrating. Not just people online, not just smarks like me and you and Skylar, but people inside WWE were happy when we got the news that Vince McMahon was gone. But there's a contingent of people who will blindly follow to his low grave, saying, without we wouldn't have WWE. Without Vince McMahon, we wouldn't have this, that, whatever. Without Vince McMahon, the heavens and the sea would collide, the world would end. Vince McMahon is pardoned of all of his wrongdoing because he made WWE what it is today. I fucking despise that thought process. That is such a stupid train of thought that just because he made WWE or made it in its present form, therefore he is absolved of all criticism, and anyone who's glad to see him go is automatically written off as a mark or a smark or a stupid person that is a traitor to the WWE. My thing is, yes, he did make WWE what it is today. But at the same time, my gratefulness for that bottoms out when you realize that the number one problem with the company was him.
Yeah.
He has suffocating this company for almost 2 decades now.
You're not wrong.
Think of all the horrendous garbage that we've been forced to sit through that was given the okay and endorsed and loved by Vince McMahon.
Yep.
How many people have stopped watching wrestling because of Vince McMahon? I feel like
a lot.
I feel like he's turned away more people than he's brought in his entire career. Sure, he's the most successful wrestling promoter of all time. He made WWE a multi-billion-dollar company, or at this point a multi-million-dollar company, because he's surrounded himself with a bunch of. Every day that CM Punk promo gets even better. But my gratefulness ended a long time ago when he became a hindrance to the company. You know all those stories where they would have Raw ready and written, and like an hour before the show starts, he rips it up and rewrites everything because one thing he did not like.
We heard that a lot.
All the writers, the show, we've all said it before, the phrase, an audience of one. Everyone writing the show was writing it for one person.
Vince.
A 77-year-old man who has when he was in his 50s, he had the worst sense of humor ever.
It wasn't great.
I am so fucking happy and elated that he's gone. I do not care that he made WWE. I am not a Vince McMahon lemming. I want to see good wrestling person. And the biggest obstacle in the pursuit of wanting good wrestling, especially from this company, was Vince McMahon. So the people that are saying, you should be bowing and worshiping his feet because he made this, fuck you. So Triple H, the ball's in your court. SummerSlam was great, and I'll get more into my thoughts on SummerSlam in a second. Keep it up. Prove all of us right. All of us have been wanting you to take charge. Prove all of us right. Prove the old man wrong. At this point, I want Triple H to start doing things in WWE that are both simultaneously good and piss Vince McMahon off, just because I'm a little bit bitter, if you haven't noticed.
A tad.
And then Vince McMahon can't do anything about it. So Triple H, the ball's in your court. But this, the first post-Vince McMahon WWE pay-per-view, my God, even though I did have some issues here and there, for example, the awful camera cuts at the beginning of the U.S. title match, those were nitpicks. Like I said at the beginning, the vibe of this show was so different. Remember what all three of us gave WrestleMania Night 2?
0.
3 zeros across the board.
Yeah.
That was one of the worst piles of fucking human excrement that I've ever sat through in my life.
One of the worst pay-per-views of all time of any wrestling company ever.
December to Dismember has nothing on WrestleMania 38 Night 2.
Agreed.
This same year, Vince is gone and we get this. This was almost like WWE apologizing for its shittiness.
But in a real way, not when the four of them are like, you know, we haven't been listening to you. We're going to do better, but we're not.
This was an actual apology, not a kayfabe, we're trying to save face and make it part of a storyline even though nothing's going to change bullshit apology.
Yeah.
This actually felt like genuine, real change. And even the stuff on the show that I wasn't... Because, again, I admit, I did not watch the Miz-Logan Paul match because I would rather, honestly, do anything with my time other than that. And I'm probably still going to skip Logan Paul segments at this point forward, and The Miz as well, because I'm just so over him at this point that unless he, like, radically changes everything to the point where he's barely recognizable, then maybe I'll consider watching more Miz matches.
Who knows, man? At this point, who knows?
But the opening match was great, and it set the tone. And even the stuff that wasn't great, even then it wasn't unbearable and grating and just awful to sit through. And the main event was so batshit insane in the best way possible. Although I will say my favorite match of the year so far is still Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in the Hell in a Cell match. This was a close second. And honestly, up until that main event, I was thinking, this is a good show. It feels good. The direction this show's going in feels better. Even the stuff that wasn't quite landing felt like Triple H's hands were kind of tied because things were already set in motion that he was having to deal with. But then the main event hit like a freaking jackhammer. Not Goldberg, fuck you. I'm also joining Skylar. I'm giving the show an 8 out of 10. It was like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and then the main event hit, and I just... Mazel tov. The winning argument is when I was sad when the match ended. That's when you know.
Yeah.
When you want more, when you don't want it to end, that's when you know you have a good show.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to Clash at the Castle. I kind of wanted to watch Raw after SummerSlam went off the air. That is insane.
That is pretty insane. That's pretty insane.
So now that I've said my piece and my throat hurts, Sean, your thoughts?
Well, I don't disagree with pretty much anything you said. I mean, I think that you're completely on the money of, you know, Vince McMahon made the WWE what it is today, but at the same time, Vince McMahon made the WWE what it is today.
Yes.
so
made it as unwatchable. And he is responsible for WrestleMania 38 Night 2.
Yeah, it's very much a double-edged sword when it comes to Vince. And that's the thing. Like, you can't absolve him of what he's done regardless. But at the same time, you know, you can respect his contributions because there have been good ones and not so good ones. But at this point, that time is done. Unless something ridiculous happens. Triple H took over something pretty much on the fly because he needed to. Because of how rapidly things were changing and unfolding. And Triple H spoke to the casual fan and said, look, there's still going to be a lot of different things here that you're going to be able to enjoy and palatable, and they're going to make sense, and we're not going to treat you like children, but we're also not going to treat our talent like children. And so that is going to be something different. To the lapsed fan, look, we understand that the most successful drawing time in our period was when things were getting off-the-wall bananas. And we will try to give you at least some bananas. I don't know if we'll be able to give you the whole bunch, because I know that, you know, but everything's good in moderation. So enjoy the potassium while we're able to give it to you.
This analogy is going places, and I love it.
And then to the Smarks, saying, look, you guys are the most vocal. There's no doubt you guys are the most vocal. But I know you understand that that WWE is much bigger than that. But that doesn't mean that we're going to leave what you say unheard. We're going to listen. We're going to try and make the talent work. We're going to work to make this truly a group effort. You know, I feel more attached to their then, now, forever together now than I ever did with Vince at the helm. Because this truly does feel like...
Do you remember, like, especially at the Rumble and WrestleMania 38 Night 2, how the worst part was how insulted you felt watching those shows and how just, like, it was killing your passion.
Yeah. And I feel like this added a spark.
This feels like the exact opposite.
Yeah. This was more like, hey, listen, we're not perfect, but we're doing things differently now. This is very definitively a new leaf. And I will always respect that. And I respect the fact that Triple H basically took this helm and said, all right, we're going to make some immediate changes and we're going to make some long-term changes. But I want to reassure you out there that this is not what you've seen from the past 20 years. Even when I was on top and people were starting to tune out, whether that was my fault or not, Katie Vick, I understand what you are looking for at this point. I understand what WWE truthfully needs at this point. And it's not just going to be about TV deals and Saudi Arabia money and selling out no matter how bad the show is. We're going to try and make something watchable for you. We're going to try and make you feel for the people involved in our show as opposed to just selling the show. And that attitude difference, that tone difference, that understanding of what fans are trying to access is going to completely change the way that people look at WWE if it continues.
Yeah.
But the operative word there is if it continues. This is a great start, but it's going to take a long time to undo the wrongs that have been stained and splattered all over this show.
And again, like we mentioned a second ago, this, as good as this show was, what makes it all the more impressive is that Triple H was in control of the show a week before this show. So basically, everything that happened, he had to come up with basically on very short notice.
Yeah.
Imagine what Triple H can do when he's in control of everything leading into a show. Not just, hey, we've already figured most of this shit out. Just get us across the finish line, Triple H. Triple H going the entire 9 yards with a team behind him, that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see where he's going to be able to lead things. Now, before we close, because I know we're very close to the end here, we've almost run 3 whole hours, so I want to try and get us closed up before we reach that point. I want to talk real quick. JoshAgeddon, what do you think Tony Khan is thinking after this show? Because up to this point, Tony Khan has had a remarkably lucky handicap of WWE being, as such, completely uninteresting and not even posing any sort of excitable threat to what AEW was perpetrating on their show. All of a sudden, Triple H puts on, and I'm going to agree with the both of you. My review is also an 8. That's my...
Triple H.
Yeah, Triple H.
Is perfect.
Yeah, so a solid 24 out of 30. That's pretty darn good for your first pay-per-view, Triple H. But what is Tony Khan thinking? Knowing that now all of the talent that were like, well, we came here because of Vince, but Triple H is back and we might go back. And Tony Khan does the whole petty thing of, well, you're under 5-year contract, so I'd like to see you try. Instead of saying...
That was him puffing his chest out and acting all big and bad, and it's so see-through and hollow.
And it backfired on him because everyone just laughed at him. Because instead of being, well, we're going to make AEW the place to be, instead of promoting AEW, he showed his insecurities.
He immediately turned it into a dick measuring contest.
So now that Tony does not have the handicap, what is going through the mind of everybody's favorite Ritalin-induced booker?
Well, the fact that he's so Ritalin-induced makes it kind of impossible to know what's going through his mind, because there's probably 40,000 things going through his, like, ricocheting around his tiny walnut-sized brain.
Fair.
But you know, at some degree, he's kind of like, well, shit, this could potentially be a problem. He can say all he wants to. He can preach to high heaven that he's not worried at all, because he has contracts that are as big as his dick.
Yeah.
But you know that he's worried. There's no way he couldn't be.
Yeah.
Because, remember, a year ago, AEW was on fire
Mm-hmm.
because they were hiring a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And in that time since, they did carry that momentum for a little bit.
But
and
now
then Revolution happened.
But now all the people are injured. Everybody's injured. Your show quality is being exposed for not being that good when you don't have your stars, and then your competition goes and pulls out a banger like they did SummerSlam.
Forbidden Door was and remember, my biggest complaint about Forbidden Door was it felt like it seriously lacked star power because literally everyone that was supposed to be on the show was injured. And people were still getting injured mid-show. So the angry wrestling gods, all hail the angry wrestling gods. They came after Vince. It's working, and I'm grateful for it. But Forbidden Door was honestly an indictment. Because, again, they had momentum. Then Revolution was not very good. I gave that show a 3 out of 10. You and Skylar, I believe, gave it worse grades than that. And ever since Revolution, their momentum has just stalled and stalled and stalled. And now I'm just like, now they're having Daniel Bryan lose to Daniel Garcia on Dynamite.
Oh.
Upon his return. And I know you have a promo in the works for a Mr. Tony Khan because of that particular little booking decision.
Folks, because we're running so late on time, I'm going to save that promo for next week. So we're going to get into that. But I'd like to talk about that Danny Garcia Bryan Danielson matchup and what I feel about Tony Khan and his booking, especially now in the wake of SummerSlam. So stay tuned next week for that, because that's going to be something you're going to want to hear. But
I mean, thinking that people would jump back from AEW to WWE now at a point seemed kind of unthinkable. Now, honestly, AEW should be worried.
Yeah,
they should be very, very worried.
Yeah. And I don't even know if Punk alone is going to be enough to undo that. You know, when he does come back.
They asked Punk about his feelings on that, and his response was a very skittish, well, you know Vince McMahon's going to have a few things to say here and there. He kind of dodged the question. Like, he didn't say how WWE might change under new leadership. He was still saying, he was basically clinging to the Vince McMahon shadow government conspiracy theory, which could very well also happen.
True. And also, Punk and Triple H have no love lost either, but that's
that
a
also
story.
is true. And nothing would make Punk sadder than giving Triple H a compliment.
Yeah. So,
but you know, Punk has got to be thinking, man, the second I move to a new company, things start changing for the better in the company that fired me on my wedding day.
Yeah. Well,
if only the stars aligned sooner.
Well, folks, I got to tell you, there has never been, at least in the past probably 15 or 16 years. We said it when AEW launched, but we didn't really mean it. We said it when Vince was getting in, the initial rumors, but we didn't quite believe it. But now that we've seen Triple H's pay-per-view, I truly believe that this might be one of the most exciting times to be a wrestling fan in history.
Agreed.
I mean, this is going to determine the future of professional wrestling as we know it. And how I
remember
it's
you said several times, especially after Mania, that you felt like wrestling needs to die for several generations, and then other people, like 100 years from now, need to pick it back up, and maybe it can be something again. Maybe with this, we don't need to get to that.
We can only hope.
There is hope, ladies and gentlemen.
There is hope.
Moral of SummerSlam 2022, moral of this review, there is hope.
This is the ending of Rogue One. Right here.
Yes. Well, the CGI, the only thing that's missing is a CGI Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Or a very young, a CGI'd young Stephanie saying hope with pigtails. and
hope starts with H.
That's right. Just like Triple H.
Triple H.
That's right. And because it was a Triple H, and I am triple exhausted, it is time to go to our first commercial break. 3 hours in. JoshAgeddon, great that you're still here. Thanks for hopping along on our podcast, and thanks for having us hop on your podcast.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but thank you for interrupting me.
Well,
again,
get used to it.
There will be more interruptions in the future.
You bet, my friend. But until then, folks, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week, right after this.